Tomorrow, chance for scattered storms, daytime highs approaching 76. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 69.
David Horowitz's new book about President Trump is out. It's called Blitz. In Blitz, Horowitz warns that Antifa wants to stop Trump and crush our freedoms. Blitz predicted that race would be a big issue, but Trump has a secret plan for the election. Mike Huckabee says if everyone reads Blitz, Trump will win. A #1 Amazon bestseller. Get Blitz at bookstores or get the free offer from Newsmax and save $28. Just call 800-NEWSMAX. That's 800-NEWSMAX. Or go to blitz411.com. blitz411.com.
Capital One knows life doesn't alert you about your credit card.
Hey, couch surfers, we've got nonstop tunes to keep you rocking while you work. Oh, and Colleen, yes, you Colleen with a K. Your free trial of Movie Plus ends tomorrow and your card may be charged. Do you want to continue or cancel?
So meet Eno, the Capital One assistant. Eno looks out for surprise charges, like when free trials expire, and helps if you need to fix them. Eno, another way Capital One is watching out for your money when you're not. Capital One, what's in your wallet? Limitations apply.
During this challenging and unprecedented time, Gunderson's is here to serve with expert guidance and understanding to each family and their unique needs. We provide options for funeral, cremation, memorial, virtual, and webcast services, either presently or at a later date. We understand that grief does not wait. We are trained to help you walk this path to bring comfort and support. Every life deserves to be recognized and celebrated, whether it be together or afar.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. I'm Doctor of Truth, Michael Devine, and I'm pleased to say that we can now have guests in the studio. And the first one today is Pastor Austin Hill, and he's wearing his mask so he doesn't infect me. So thank you for that.
Yeah, well, it is wonderful to actually see your face.
It is
while we're talking.
You see, I lost so much in this radio program. It's hardly a major thing, but to have people on the phone all the time, you just lost a lot. There's the delay. I can't read people. There's a delay and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
and I can't catch nuance in people's voices. I've gotten in trouble in Facebook several times for saying something, and I've been jumped on because what I said and what I thought I said was completely misconstrued by people who wanted or waiting for somebody to say something that they could twist.
Yeah, exactly. Or even just being able to laugh along with you, as either one of us cracks a joke or something. The delay when it's when it's over the phone, you lose that ability to have that kind of connection. And so it's wonderful to be in person, and in a very real sense, I've seen in the last 8 weeks some of the privilege there is in being an Iowan. With so many of these things that are going on in the country that we keep hearing about, I feel like in a lot of ways we are somewhat insulated as Iowans. We don't live in New York City where people live in skyscrapers on top of each other. So
I would say I'm very glad about that.
Yeah, and so the social distancing is a lot more easy to do that. So I've just been very thankful to live where we do, and but then also still, as we are as a state sort of laxing some of the restrictions, I've heard this phrase, and I think it's been very true of my experience. It was a lot less complicated to close things down than it has been to open things back up.
Yeah.
And I think organizations everywhere, we are really just working through these difficult decisions about how to open things, how to prioritize people's safety while also allowing for people to do the good work that they do. And that's not just in the church, but that's in so many of these different industries and community organizations, nonprofits, things like that. And I think for me, one of the takeaways is human connection really actually matters.
Oh, right after the Second World War, or toward the end of it, there were so many infants that were orphaned in Great Britain because of the bombings by our friends, the Nazis. And there were a lot of infants, again, that the hospital and the British government had to care for. Now, the infants were fed and they were kept warm, and they were attended to by a couple of nurses. There was probably 2 nurses for 50 kids, but they were all well attended. But the infants started to die, even though they had everything they needed. They started to die. And it was discovered that these infants were dying because they didn't get any human contact, which is especially important for an infant, to bond with someone. Without that, and without the, I hate to say the host, but without the host or the mother's body, where they were connected, they had nothing. They had nothing to keep them alive, which is a remarkable situation, and a tragic situation, of course. That story always breaks my heart.
Yeah, well, the fact that we would have lived through such a tragedy to even be able to discover that incredible truth about the human condition.
That's right.
But then also, it's been interesting because at the beginning of this, when we were all meeting online, Zoom meetings, all this kind of stuff, and, there's some conversation of, are we ever going to go back to physical meetings again? And, church bloggers, I've been following a lot of these church leadership websites and church thinkers kind of throughout this whole thing, and, talking about what does this mean for the future of the church. And while in some ways, yes, we do need to adapt and kind of utilize the technology that we have, I think it has also reinforced the power of a human connection. And, sure, we might be able to do church online in theory. The function of church.
I tried it with you, Pastor. I couldn't get it done.
Yeah,
I just couldn't get it done.
It's like, okay, so, theologically, we know that the church is outside of a church building. God is not limited to one particular place. We understand all of that, but there's something to be said about a physical, embodied connection with people.
Really, when you stop and think about it, if we really could worship in our own homes with just our own company, what good is church? Why it? We can have an online pastor, and I suppose they do in this time, but it doesn't work for me. It's the idea that we are assembled here in the house of God to worship. We are here together with one purpose, and that's what's important. That's what's important to me.
Well, and when the early church started, a lot of it was house churches.
Yeah, sure.
But it was also people gathering in the local synagogues, and so there was also still kind of a centeredness of place. And I think the biggest thing is being with other people. That to follow Jesus, to be a Christian, it's not a solo activity. It's not just about me and reading the Bible and learning whatever I need to learn about following Jesus, but I live out my faith in community with other people. And I think that was made apparent and continues to be made apparent in this time. And so we can do that to a degree online, certainly. And we're going to continue having our online services, even though we also have in-person services. And so we want to continue to have that available kind of to people as much as possible. But there really is something to be said about being in community with other people, whether that's physical or digital, but certainly physical feels the most connecting and the most impactful, I think.
I'm with you 100%. I mean, sometimes I don't think the medical professionals and the political figures who are urging us to socially isolate, especially after all this time, get what we're talking about at all. They seem to be cold and indifferent at times by telling us what's good for us and how maybe, implying that we may be irresponsible in our personal decisions. So naturally the government has to step in, or some authority of some kind.
Someone who knows better.
But I just want to see my grandkids. Well, I'm sorry you can't. What?
Yeah. Well, and I think it also just forces us to consider what is health, to take a more holistic view of health. Yes, health is being free of disease, but health also involves an emotional component. It involves a spiritual component, a relational component. These are all different parts of our human experience that that all together form what it is to be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So sure, I can be free of the disease, but if I'm depressed or if I'm struggling with anxiety because of the isolation I'm dealing with, am I really healthy?
Mm-hmm.
I might be disease-free, but I'm not healthy. And I think these are all factors that kind of weigh in together. And I think this is one of the things that's been interesting to me is seeing a lot of these states that have increasing rates of the virus right now, which of course is troubling. But I think more and more governors, at least, are recognizing that the virus is only one among many countervailing needs in their communities. And they're trying to kind of hold all of those together in tension. So I'm not saying throw caution in the wind. Again, here I am wearing a mask, and I'm really not kind of a mask sort of guy, but I also know that, I've got to get right up next to this microphone in order to have my voice be projected, and I know there will be other people using this microphone, and, you and I are in, kind of a small space here. So I do think it is incumbent upon us to be responsible. I don't think we need to be thoughtless about this, but I also think we do need to look for ways that we can continue to meet together.
I'm ready. I'm absolutely ready. Certainly, this is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Our guest is Pastor Austin Hill. As you know, if you're watching on YouTube, we're in studio today, which is great. So if you have a question or comment, please call 955-1400. Let's go to whoa! I thought we had it. I thought we had an interesting caller there.
Yeah,
must have been a telemarketer. So good riddance to telemarketers everywhere.
I know. I was going to be excited. It's another one of the great things we can do is that we can have callers call in while we're here talking.
That's right. We can. So, of course, again, I always want to talk end of days. My favorite chapter in the Bible is the book of Revelations, not because of what it has to say necessarily. It's just the sharp and terrible writing. Mm-hmm. By the way, is Bible study at Zacchaeus tomorrow? Or
yeah, 6:30.
Do I have to wear one of those damn masks? How do you eat with one of those things?
Well, I've been asked that, and I said, well, we're going to be eating breakfast, so no, we're not requiring masks. So I
was in Zacchaeus over the weekend. As a matter of fact, yesterday I was taken out for a Father's Day breakfast, which was really nice, and the staff all wore masks. But I didn't. I mean, the people who were eating there, a lot of Father's Day people,
Do you keep the mask on, and then every time you take another bite of bacon, you kind of pull it off?
Not me. not me.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how well that would work.
It didn't work very well for me, and of course I didn't even try it. So there we go. There we go. If you have a question or comment, again, it's 515-955-1400, 515-955-1400 if you would care to comment. It's hard not to talk about racism here in this country. I'm one who, and we have talked about it in the past. Mm-hmm. I wonder what Jesus would do with this situation. Would he call for more restraint? I don't know if he would call for continued action in the streets, but maybe that is what's required. I don't know. But what do you think Jesus would do?
That's a good question. I think Jesus certainly cared about those who were oppressed. Jesus certainly cared about the ways that different racial groups were being excluded. Or, Jesus, one of the things that made people really angry at him is that the people he was continually reaching out to were kind of those who were the outcasts, the tax collectors, Zacchaeus, if you look at Luke 4 and 5, when Jesus begins his ministry in the Gospel of Luke, he reads from Isaiah in the synagogue, then talks about how these prophecies for the Messiah and all this kind of stuff, and he says, this is all being fulfilled in your presence here today, and, implying that he's this Messiah. But then he goes on and says essentially that this good news from Isaiah, it's not just for the Jews, it's also for the Gentiles. And that is so angering to those Jews that they get so enraged that they drag him to the top of the hillside out in Nazareth, and they want to throw him off the cliff. So Jesus in his ministry, I think he started in this movement of Christianity, in the sense that Christianity transcends cultures, it transcends race, it transcends sex, it transcends socioeconomic classes and structures, and a lot of people didn't like that back then.
Oh, obviously.
Completely, yeah. And so I do think I think the gospel in the New Testament, it impacts what we should be thinking about all of this, certainly. So I think if Jesus were here today, I don't think he would be silent.
He definitely would not.
Now, I also believe he would be nonviolent, and I think he would find ways to talk about these issues that would be not violent. I don't think he would be rioting or looting, but I think he would be trying to challenge each one of us to think about what it means for us to follow God, and the challenges that we all have, kind of wherever we come from on that spectrum. Interestingly, yes, Jesus was, associating, say, with Zacchaeus, this man that no one else liked, but he also did call Zacchaeus out and invited Zacchaeus into a new way of life. At the end of that story, Zacchaeus kind of freely offers, rather. I have to look back exactly what happens in the story, but Zacchaeus says, I'm going to sell my possessions. I'm going to live differently in response to this dinner that Jesus has with Zacchaeus. So Jesus' presence certainly invited life change, even for the people who were the outcasts, and certainly for those who weren't the outcasts as well.
Yeah, I agree 100%. This was what you just described. What Jesus would do is essentially what Dr. Martin Luther King and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference did.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. King wanted to horrify the supposedly Christian United States. And there was a particular incident when he rounded up a bunch of children and had them march, and they were brutally attacked by Bull Connor, who was police commissioner, public safety commissioner.
Oh, wow.
An oxymoron, I don't know if I ever heard of it. But he was, he had his officers turn the water cannons on children and adults.
Wow.
And some of the police officers and those in the fire department froze. They couldn't really bring themselves to open up those fire cannons on the kids. And they were probably pretty redneck themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually a few of the hoses did come into action, and I still remember when I was a kid, little children and men and grown men and just being bowled over, and it's a sickening sight. It was the George Floyd video of his time.
Yeah.
And that's what Dr. King wanted. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what he wanted us to see. Now, as a result, Lyndon Johnson was able to pass the Voting Act, the Fair Housing Act, and the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Stokely Carmichael came around and said, listen, we cannot do this anymore. I mean, Stokely Carmichael I used to love listening to him because he was a brilliant man. I didn't, of course, as a white person, necessarily agree that we were all, white people sucked. But he was a brilliant man, and he said, what we want is power. That's what Black Power was about. He wanted political power. He wanted the power that comes from wealth, and he didn't think the white man would ever give up any of that power without violence. And that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was in the 1960s. And as time has gone by, I almost agree with Stokely Carmichael, who went on to become Kwame Mtume, or what I think. No, that's another man. But anyway, Mr. Carmichael left the country, changed his. He moved to the continent of Africa. I can't remember which country he did, and changed his name to an African name. And he died tragically early of prostate cancer.
Wow.
But again, the point is, he didn't believe as Dr. King did. I don't think he had a Christian identity at all.
Mm-hmm.
So what he thought, all that mattered was power.
And kind of whoever has the power is going to do what they can to hold on to it.
Right. So I remember I remember him saying, if a police officer puts, he said, clear in your mind. He was referring to police officers. Clear in your mind. If you put your hand on me, I'm going to break your arm.
Wow.
And that's the way it's been for a long time. And that's those two cultures in the police and in the black community have grown up side by side with each other. No, I shouldn't say grown up, but they've existed side by side.
Kind of in parallel.
Yeah, it seems that blacks are very hostile to the police, and the more I look at it and think about it, they probably have a right. And I don't know what. I'm here struggling with an answer.
Yeah, well, it's a complicated time, and we can pick this up on the other side of the break too. But I would like to continue thinking about what are practical things that we as Fort Dodgers can do on these issues. How can we be constructive rather than destructive in this conversation?
Mm-hmm. We're gonna have to. I think we can figure it out over the news break. So,
yeah. So hang tight right here.
Yeah, hang tight. We'll be back with the answer after the news.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
2:31, the news is next.
Protect and nourish in one pass with Pro Aqua Pulse. Pro Aqua Pulse Foliar Nutrition is uniquely formulated with high-quality ingredients to promote healthier plants and higher yields. In field trials, Pro Aqua Pulse delivered an average corn yield increase of 2.8% and an average soybean yield increase of 7.3% compared with the grower's standard practice alone. Pro Aqua Pulse is compatible and approved for use with many crop protection chemistries in the tank. Protect and nourish in one pass. You can expect a good return on your investment. Visit compasscrops.com for more information.
We all need a little help sometimes.
Lifelong Links connects older Iowans who need assistance with living independently.
During these challenging times, you may find yourself in need of a little assistance in order to remain healthy and safe in your home. Lifelong Links from the Iowa Department on Aging will connect you to available resources such as food, meals, personal care, or just someone to talk with.
Please call 866-468-7887 and you will receive a supportive response to help navigate these uncertain times together.
Your circle of care is more important now than ever. Mercy One is innovating to keep you healthy, including virtual visits with your doctor from the comfort and safety of your home. Visits are easy. During virtual appointments, providers can prescribe or adjust medications, review test results, coordinate additional treatment options, assess whether further care is needed, and much more. Call your primary care or specialist office today to connect with your doctor. Mercy One, your best life, our one purpose.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. A member of the Fort Dodge School Board is receiving public backlash after he made controversial comments online on Friday. Matt Wagner tweeted on Friday, quote, "Forced reparations for apparently my ancestors. I'm not even sure my ancestors owe anyone an apology, but evidently I do. Sorry for all the privilege I get working 60 hours a week while everyone else is at the lakes or looting a Target." End quote. APHIS director and leader in the community Charles Clayton was critical of the post on Saturday and offered this online response. "This morning I have former and current students asking me what they should do and what should be done about someone who thinks there should be no apology for slavery and the only thing blacks do, I guess, is loot Target. Here is your chance to do something, Fort Dodge. No excuses. Time to stand up to people who think like this, being in leadership positions," end quote. Wagner did issue an apology on social media on Saturday, saying that he, quote, "put his foot in his mouth and what he said is indefensible." In the apology, Wagner did say that he hopes that 48 years of serving his community is not undone by social media and that he will try to do and be better. The Fort Dodge Community School District did issue a statement Sunday night on the issue. In the statement, they did not talk about any sort of disciplinary action that Mr. Wagner could be facing, but they did say they were aware of the tweet and that the personal comments of Matt Wagner do not reflect the values of the Fort Dodge Community School District. The district went on to say in their statement, "As a safe and supportive school community, we value everyone and believe our differences make us stronger and more resilient. Our district stands against any and all acts of racism, disrespect, and inequitable treatment of people of color." The city of Fort Dodge has released a statement about this year's fireworks display that says the city and Greater Fort Dodge Growth Alliance are faced with the difficult decision of announcing the cancellation of this year's fireworks display following the disbanding of the volunteer committee that has overseen the event for the past 8 years. This announcement is also a result of the ongoing concerns related to COVID-19 and out of respect for local businesses who historically have contributed generously to the funding for the fireworks. Fort Dodge residents are reminded to obey all rules and regulations set forth in the city's fireworks ordinance if they choose to discharge consumer fireworks inside city limits. Failure to do so will result in a $500 fine for the first violation and a $750 fine for subsequent violations. According to a statement from Webster County Emergency Management Coordinator Dylan Hagan Monday morning, the boil water advisory for the city of Lehigh has been lifted. Test results have come back and are at safe levels. Sports from over the weekend. Number 1 Fort Dodge softball 3-0 on Saturday at their home invitational with 2 wins over ranked opponents. They opened the invitational with a win over Class 1A's number 2 team Newell Fonda 6-1. They went on to knock off Class 4A's number 10 team Winterset 7-1 in Game 2 and capped off the day with a 12-0 win in 6 innings against Harlan. Southeast Valley softball 1-2 in an invitational at Martinsdale St. Mary's on Saturday. Jags lost to Class 1A's number 1 team Collins Maxwell 11-0. They then beat AHSTW 8-3 and fell 10-9 to Martinsdale St. Mary's. Today, St. Edmunds softball on the road at 10th ranked undefeated Algona. Algona baseball taking on the undefeated St. Edmund Gales. Algona head coach Chad Slagle expects a battle tonight.
Their pitching staff they've been pretty much awesome right now. It's definitely going to be a challenge for us. Getting good pitches, and when we get the good pitch, we've got to put the ball in play, and I think that's going to be a great high school baseball game. It's very important for us to be locked in right away, get good quality at bats.
A 7:30 scheduled first pitch between the Bulldogs and Gales at Harlan Rogers. Fort Dodge softball and baseball were both scheduled to take on Ottumwa on the road today. Those games have been postponed. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice for Dodge. It's 2:38. I'm Michael Devine with the weather. Right now it's cloudy, kind of a bleh day. It's 69 degrees. Sunny later this afternoon with a high of 71. Tonight partly cloudy with a low of 56. Tomorrow chance of showers and thunderstorms, mostly sunny with a high of 76. Wednesday, sunny with a high of 80. Thursday, sunny with a high of 85. Friday, showers and thunderstorms likely mainly before 1 in the afternoon. It'll be partly sunny on Friday with a high of 90. On Saturday, partly sunny again with a high of 90. Sunday, mostly sunny with a high of 90. Right now, it's 69 degrees and overcast. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. Brenda Shipman has died at the age of 54. Brenda Shipman of Colville passed away last Friday at Trinity Regional Medical Center here in town after a battle with leukemia. There will be a funeral service here in town at 11 o'clock in the morning Thursday for Brenda Shipman. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. It's 2:39 at AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, 69 degrees. With a look at the closing market report, here's Dwayne Murley.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. July corn down 4 1/4 to close at 328 1/4. September down 4 1/4 at 333. December corn down 3 1/2 cents at 341 3/4. March down 3 1/4 at 353 1/2. July soybeans closed down 1/4 penny at 876 1/4. August down a penny at 875. September down 1 1/2 cents to close at 873 3/4. November down 1.5 at 8.79 1/4. July wheat up 3 3/4 at 4.85. Soybean meal down 50 cents a ton at 2.8650. June live cattle down 30 cents at 94.40. August down 27 at 95.12. August feeder cattle down 80 cents at 131.75. September down 80 at 133.07. July lean hogs down 162 at 46.82. August down 170 at 51.10. From the farm desk, I'm Dwayne Murley.
When you're stressed, you just don't feel like yourself. New Natrol Relaxia, a full line of drug-free supplements to help you manage occasional stress and anxiety. A special blend of herbals keeps you feeling calm and balanced throughout the day. Because when there's less stress, there's more you. Try new Natrol Relaxia. Learn more at relaxiamood.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Protect and nourish in one pass with Pro Aqua Pulse. Pro Aqua Pulse Foliar Nutrition is uniquely formulated with high-quality ingredients to promote healthier plants and higher yields. In field trials, Pro Aqua Pulse delivered an average corn yield increase of 2.8% and an average soybean yield increase of 7.3% compared with the grower's standard practice alone. Pro Aqua Pulse is compatible and approved for use with many crop protection chemistries in the tank. Protect and nourish in one pass. You can expect a good return on your investment. Visit compasscrops.com for more information.
Rewards Beyond Rebates is not like other rebate programs. Melanie Burke, Innovation Specialist with BASF, explains.
BASF is investing their money in on-farm resources to really truly help the farmer. Individuals like myself that can be on the farm and really work with that farmer to create an individual plan that works for them, addresses the weed control issues that they have, and helps them in their specific environment. Rather than investing in mailers and marketing and publicity of how much money we're going to give back, we're really focusing on making sure the farmer's successful and making sure that they're getting the best results that they can possibly get. Money is made by how much grain is sold. So it's truly helping that farmer get the most amount of grain and having the most success on their farm.
To learn more, growers should talk with their local BASF representative or go to rewardsbeyondrebates.com.
How do you like your sandwich? Do you prefer turkey or ham, mayo or mustard, crunchy or creamy peanut butter? No matter what you like to put on your sandwich, everyone agrees that a really good sandwich should start with a really great bread. That's why the bakers of Country Hearth put so much care into making their natural breads. Baked with good stuff like toasted whole grains and natural honey, you're sure to find a variety that's just right for you. So no matter how you like your sandwich, Country Hearth has the perfect bread to build it on. Country Hearth Bread, baking our best for you.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Yes, I'm the mayor of Manville, and the mayor of Fort Dodge will be here Thursday at 4. Glad to welcome once again Pastor Austin Hill to the program. He's in studio wearing his mask. And I got to get a picture of this guy wearing his mask in my studio. I'm so impressed by this. But anyway, I want to talk to you about two things.
Sure.
The first question I would like you to answer is if the Presbyterian Church has a history with slavery, not with racism necessarily, but with slavery. And I want to ask you also if we all should accept some guilt over slavery or for the mistreatment of black people in this country to date, because I've never done any of those things. Mm-hmm. And I'm somebody who believes in the individual over the collective. I don't believe the collective should come to my door in whatever shape, whether they be the media or protesters or whatever, and say, you owe us an apology, because I don't. I never hurt any black people intentionally, never called anybody names. There was a significant moment in my life, and I've told the story before about my mother forcing us to watch TV during the civil rights period of Dr. King. And Dr. King gave that inspirational speech after he had organized a huge march on Washington. He was at the Lincoln Memorial, and he said, I look forward to the day when my children can be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And my parents, especially my mother, and I give them full credit for this, although I thought they were horrible parents. I give them full credit for making me see that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, it helped me grow up in a certain way. I don't see all white people the same way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my interactions have been with white people, and I'll tell you, there's some weird white people out there. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I've met plenty of black people in my life, and most of the people were good, but there were some very strange people, some very violent people, some people I didn't want to have anything to do with at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I never criticized them for being black.
Yeah.
It's still kind of, well, you're this way, so naturally you have these characteristics. That's nonsense. Whoever thought of that was crazy. Some redneck back in Georgia in the 19th century, I suppose. But let's go back to the first question.
Yeah. Well, you know, so I went to Princeton Theological Seminary in New Jersey, and it's kind of the flagship Presbyterian seminary. The dorm that I stayed in, it was Alexander Hall, and I believe the building was built in maybe 1815, and so I think it's one of the oldest seminary buildings or something like that. I forget exactly what the stat about it is. But Alexander Hall then has 4 floors. I lived on 4th Alex, as they would say. And every other room in the dorm was large. And so you'd have a large full-size dorm room, and then next to it you would have this really skinny dorm room. And students would often refer to it as a bowling alley because it was just this long, skinny room, and it was very clearly smaller than the one next to it.
Mm-hmm.
Other students would refer to them as slave quarters because, believe it or not, so 1815 is when this building was built. There were Presbyterian seminary students who would bring their slave or have a slave that would be with them in seminary. And so these smaller rooms were actually for slave quarters. They actually were.
So if you had slaves in 1815 and you wanted to be a minister of God, you could bring your slave
to seminary.
To study,
to
seminary.
So
times have changed.
Yeah, they have, and you know, so that's in our history, and you know, in our Presbyterian history. So actually, you know, pretty interestingly, just a few months ago, or maybe it was more recent than that, Princeton Seminary issued a statement. They had adopted some document that faculty had written, kind of writing a formal apology for the school's part in kind of furthering subjugation and slavery and racist thoughts.
Even
and
for
attitudes.
the time, even for 1815,
Mm-hmm.
it was unusual that far north
to be in New Jersey. Yeah,
to have to see slaves being held like that.
Well, and so and they might have been servants. You know, it's
well, servant. I understand they might have been servants. But were they very voluntarily?
Well, exactly, and I don't know. And so, you know, I'm not a historian, but this is kind of
interesting question. I'm going to assume that they were slaves for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying there were no slaves
Sure.
in 1815 in the North. We weren't perfect.
Yeah.
You know.
So I think what's interesting about that though is it just shows, even though we fought a war about that issue, you know, 45 years later, it was not a clear-cut, clearly defined issue for white Christians at that time, clearly.
Because slavery was in the Bible.
Yeah, and in the New Testament as well. And you know, even the story Philemon, you know, that letter in the New Testament is in regards to this slave Onesimus, who was a runaway slave and was then sent essentially back to his slave master, Philemon, and Paul was writing to Philemon to welcome Onesimus not as a slave but as a brother, but Onesimus was being sent back to his former slave owner, and that's right there in Scripture. So it was not a clear-cut thing. So to that second question then about should we apologize? Well, you and I mean, we've had kids, and we know when you're raising a child, and we've got 2 kids in our house, and they fight, and when you tell your child to apologize, you say, now say you're sorry. Mm-hmm. How authentic is that apology usually?
I'm glad you brought that up because I never asked that of my son. Say you're sorry. I instructed him sometimes loudly that he was wrong, but I never forced him to say that. That was something that my parents' generation did that I thought was wrong. I mean, they were doing it with best intentions. But I just, sometimes as a parent, you think about what your parents did and did the same thing. But every now and then, they shouldn't have done this or they were wrong to do this. And,
so let's explore that. So tell me why you felt that you didn't want your son to, why you didn't want to compel him to apologize.
Well, I'll tell you exactly, because apology can be construed as a sign of weakness. I'm very antsy around the whole idea of an apology, especially for something you didn't do. Mm-hmm. Now, my son intended to do what he was going to do. So I did not demand an apology, and I haven't to this day, and he's a grown man with 3 children of his own. I just get very strange around apology. If you have done something wrong, and I know we're walking on a razor's edge here when we're talking about children and their actions, but I just had a problem with the whole apology thing.
Well, sorry, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Just for that, for the reason that I said that it appears to be a sign of weakness, and there are such things as unearned apologies, which I'm going to get to now. Mm-hmm. Certainly, some of the people that African Americans want us to apologize to don't deserve an apology.
Well, and I think, you bring up some really good questions about apology. And what I think, part of that fallacy in the now say you're sorry is, well, if you're not sorry, then it's a fake apology. And so if I'm being compelled to apologize, if someone is forcing me to apologize and say that I'm sorry, then I'm just lying. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not actually sorry for it. So if I'm not sorry for it, then what good does that word that I'm saying actually create?
It's phony. That's right.
Yeah. So I think
that was my experience as a child. Say you're sorry, Mike. Yeah. Well, I'm not.
Yeah, and you see the child, if they are compelled to do it, they say, "I'm sorry."
I'm sorry, but
and they don't even make
really
eye contact. So and then the parent or the adult often says, "No, look the person in the eye and say it like you mean it." That kind of thing.
We had to go around with that. I just don't do it. Well, my sister is a.
So I think to take this back to what we're talking about today, and the reason I bring up the kids part of that is, I think we've all seen insincere apologies, and often we feel worse receiving that insincere apology than a real apology. And so I don't know how effective it is or how helpful it would be to kind of socially force or socially guilt or shame people into making some kind of an apology that they don't genuinely feel sorry for.
That looks like we're at today. I mean, there is a strong feeling among African American people that white people should apologize individually and en masse for slavery. Slavery was over before I was born, well before.
Exactly. So,
and I do not agree with slavery, by the way, no matter what the Bible says.
But so, now I will nuance that. I, as an individual, can think of the trajectory of my own family and those who've gone before me, those who were able to accumulate wealth and hand it down to my ancestors who handed it down to theirs, and, that will eventually come down to me. I have no qualms admitting on air that, my parents helped pay for my college education, which then set me on a trajectory to get a graduate degree and to earn income, all these kinds of things. And I personally can feel how I feel about my own upbringing, and I can compare that to others who maybe did not have some of those same privileges, especially because of the way that their ancestors were treated. And I can feel legitimate sorrow. I can feel legitimate remorse. And I think it's perfectly appropriate if I want to say to even a group of people that I am sorry that you did not have the same experiences as a family, with your ancestors that I had, and I'm sorry that your experiences today are maybe different because of that. I can see that, I can acknowledge that, and I think maybe there's something helpful and healing if I can say that. But again, that's me feeling that, me expressing that in relationship with the people that I actually know and are in my community. That's very different than I think what's happening right now societally, where if you are the leader of any corporation or any kind of business, you are ostensibly losing business unless you come out with some kind of, public statement of contrition. And that just gets back to compelled apology. And I don't think that's really helpful or, genuine for anyone. I don't think that's an appropriate response. But I do think there's value in confession and apology, even for things maybe that we haven't done. But again, that has to come from within that individual person.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't, then we're no different, I think, in some ways, than the two arguing kids that, and the parents say to one, well, you need to say you're sorry to your brother or sister.
Yeah. I thought you were going to tell me that you were converting to Catholicism with that confession thing.
Yeah. Well, and we do that as Presbyterians. Every week in a worship service, we have a unison prayer of confession, and often whoever's the preacher is the one who writes it. And I do think there's a lot of value in that. I think sometimes what we do when we gather in a worship service, I think this is the value of in-person worship services as opposed to just everything being on demand online, is, for better or for worse, like Mike, if you come to our church service, you didn't have any say in what I was going to preach that day, and you are being, for lack of a better word, you're being subjected to how I'm interpreting God is speaking to us through that passage. And what I like about that is that model forces us to be outside of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It forces us to be humble and to acknowledge that I might be learning something new when it comes to following Jesus. And sometimes then we are confronted with learning new things that maybe we need to change in our lives or even confess. So there is value in being together and being aware of our wrongdoing that we might not be made aware of on our own. But then it still is up to the individual to come to that place of contrition and ultimately confession to God or to other people.
I have to think about that for a while. I'm very suspicious sometimes of people who demand apology, because it does something both to the person giving the apology and to the person receiving the apology. Are we authorizing people who are receiving the apology? Are they now going to stride forward and do something else? I don't know.
Yeah.
If there's an I'm very confused by it, I guess, and maybe I should just decide that what I've always believed about apologies is the way I'm going to live my life. Period.
I do think in the Christian life there's an emphasis on apology, on an appropriate sense of understanding about myself, but there's also then an emphasis on grace. It doesn't end with that apology. That apology is actually empowering.
I didn't want to say this, but one of your predecessors would always start a sermon by admonishing the congregation that we're sorry about this, or we're sorry that we couldn't be better people, or we're sorry this, sorry that. And I'd sit out there in the crowd and think, I'm not sorry. What are you talking about? Is this part of being a Christian now in the Presbyterian Church? To be sorry every damn Sunday? Because I'm not sorry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I came here to interact with other Christians to find a deeper truth. Always.
What if that deeper truth is being contrite about our wrongdoings?
If it's my wrongdoings, I'll certainly be contrite.
Yeah.
I'll try to make amends to
exactly
to do better. As far as apologizing for some slave owner in Alabama in 1860, I don't know about that. All right, Pastor Austin Hill has been our guest. Thank you, Pastor.
My
Great
pleasure.
to see you in the studio.
In person.
All right. It's 3 o'clock. This is AM 1400 KVFD.
If you're a gearhead or not, you'll enjoy the Under the Hood Car Show every Saturday afternoon from 2 till 4 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD.
A tragic new milestone. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. The new coronavirus has now killed over 120,000 people in the U.S. alone, as total confirmed cases worldwide top 9 million, nearly 2.3 million in the U.S.
Any suggestion that testing has been curtailed is not rooted in fact.
White House spokeswoman Kayleigh McEnany after what the president said at a weekend rally about telling staff to slow the testing as cases surge in multiple states. McEnany says the comment was made in jest, also dismissing questions about the president's use of the phrase Kung flu.
While the media wants to focus on nomenclature, the president's going to focus on action.
The president blames China's handling of the initial outbreak for the worldwide spread, while accusing China of a disinformation campaign blaming U.S. troops. Democrats argue the president was too slow to respond, and there's growing concern about safety rules not being followed as states reopen. One AP analysis of Johns Hopkins data finds new cases across the country are up to more than 26,000 a day, up from about 21,000 2 weeks ago. The Trump administration just designating the U.S. operations of 4 major Chinese media outlets as foreign missions that could force some of their journalists to leave the country. The State Department says China's Communist Party has full editorial control over the content of those organizations. The FBI and the Justice Department now investigating a noose found in the garage being used by black NASCAR driver Bubba Wallace, NASCAR President Steve Phelps.
This is a very, very serious act, and we take it as such. We will do everything in our power to make sure that whoever has committed this act comes to justice and comes to light, and we rid this type of behavior from our sport.
Wallace led a successful push for NASCAR to ban Confederate flags from their venues. America is listening to Fox News.
Hi, this is Jay Farner, CEO of Rocket Mortgage. Making the right financial decisions has never been more important. We can help guide you to those right decisions now, when they matter most. Mortgage rates are near historic lows, so when you call 8338-ROCKET or visit us at rocketmortgage.com to start your refinance, you'll be well on your way to saving money every month. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.375%, APR 3.59%. Right now could be a great time for you to take some positive financial steps forward with a cash-out refinance from Rocket Mortgage, which could give you the boost that you're looking for. In addition, we may be able to help you refinance with little or no out-of-pocket costs. At Rocket Mortgage, we're committed to every client, every time, no exceptions, no excuses, giving you the best mortgage experience. Call us today at 8338-ROCKET or go to rocketmortgage.com to learn more.
Rates subject to change. Pay 1.875% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Protests for a 26th day in Portland, Oregon.
Protests in Portland were highlighted by President Trump at his first rally in months in Tulsa over the weekend when he said leftist radicals took down a statue of George Washington and burned a flag wrapped around it. The statue removal happened Thursday night. Friday night into Saturday morning, a protester said he was hit in the head by a foam-tipped projectile. The police denied using such force, but the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office said they did after protesters had thrown bottles and glass and other projectiles at them. Protests continued Sunday, even though the main organizers, the Rose City Justice Group, took the day off, though they had plans to resume protesting Monday. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
Seattle's mayor set to hold a news conference after 2 weekend shootings, including a deadly incident in a zone occupied by protesters. A Hollywood star weighs in on a museum's plan to remove an 80-year-old statue.
New York's American Museum of Natural History says it will remove a statue of President Theodore Roosevelt. Actor Ben Stiller taking to Twitter to say, how about replacing it with a statue of Robin Williams? He deserves one. Williams, who died in 2014, played Roosevelt in Stiller's Night at the Museum films. Fans applauding Stiller's tweet. The bronze statue features the 26th president on a horse with a Native American man and an African American man beside him.
Fox's Kristen Goodwin. The statue's been up since 1940, but the museum now says it communicates a racial hierarchy that people have long found disturbing. Director Joel Schumacher has died, best known for films featuring the so-called Brat Pack, including St. Elmo's Fire and The Lost Boys, along with 2 Batman movies. Schumacher was 80 and died today after a year-long battle with cancer. It's been a mixed day overall on Wall Street. The Dow mostly higher, getting back over 26K at times, up about 100 points heading into the close. I'm Lisa Brady, and this is Fox News.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. A member of the Fort Dodge School Board is receiving public backlash after he made controversial comments online on Friday. Matt Wagner tweeted on Friday, quote, "Forced reparations for apparently my ancestors. I'm not even sure my ancestors owe anyone an apology, but evidently I do. Sorry for all the privilege I get working 60 hours a week while everyone else is at the lakes or looting a Target." End quote. APHIS director and leader in the community Charles Clayton was critical of the post on Saturday and offered this online response. "This morning I have former and current students asking me what they should do and what should be done about someone who thinks there should be no apology for slavery and the only thing blacks do, I guess, is loot Target. Here is your chance to do something, Fort Dodge. No excuses. Time to stand up to people who think like this, being in leadership positions," end quote. Wagner did issue an apology on social media on Saturday, saying that he, quote, "put his foot in his mouth and what he said is indefensible." In the apology, Wagner did say that he hopes that 48 years of serving his community is not undone by social media and that he will try to do and be better. The Fort Dodge Community School District did issue a statement Sunday night on the issue. In the statement, they did not talk about any sort of disciplinary action that Mr. Wagner could be facing, but they did say they were aware of the tweet and that the personal comments of Matt Wagner do not reflect the values of the Fort Dodge Community School District. The district went on to say in their statement, "As a safe and supportive school community, we value everyone and believe our differences make us stronger and more resilient. Our district stands against any and all acts of racism, disrespect, and inequitable treatment of people of color." The city of Fort Dodge has released a statement about this year's fireworks display that says the city and Greater Fort Dodge Growth Alliance are faced with the difficult decision of announcing the cancellation of this year's fireworks display following the disbanding of the volunteer committee that has overseen the event for the past 8 years. This announcement is also a result of the ongoing concerns related to COVID-19 and out of respect for local businesses who historically have contributed generously to the funding for the fireworks. Fort Dodge residents are reminded to obey all rules and regulations set forth in the city's fireworks ordinance if they choose to discharge consumer fireworks inside city limits. Failure to do so will result in a $500 fine for the first violation and a $750 fine for subsequent violations. According to a statement from Webster County Emergency Management Coordinator Dylan Hagan Monday morning, the boil water advisory for the city of Lehigh has been lifted. Test results have come back and are at safe levels. Sports from over the weekend. Number 1 Fort Dodge softball 3-0 on Saturday at their home invitational with 2 wins over ranked opponents. They opened the invitational with a win over Class 1A's number 2 team Newell Fonda 6-1. They went on to knock off Class 4A's number 10 team Winterset 7-1 in Game 2 and capped off the day with a 12-0 win in 6 innings against Harlan. Southeast Valley softball 1-2 in an invitational at Martinsdale St. Mary's on Saturday. Jags lost to Class 1A's number 1 team Collins Maxwell 11-0. They then beat AHSTW 8-3 and fell 10-9 to Martinsdale St. Mary's. Today, St. Edmunds softball on the road at 10th ranked undefeated Algona. Algona baseball taking on the undefeated St. Edmund Gales. Algona head coach Chad Slagle expects a battle tonight.
Their pitching staff they've been pretty much awesome right now. It's definitely going to be a challenge for us. Getting good pitches, and when we get the good pitch, we've got to put the ball in play, and I think that's going to be a great high school baseball game. It's very important for us to be locked in right away, get quality at bats.
A 7:30 scheduled first pitch between the Bulldogs and Gales at Harlan Rogers. Fort Dodge softball and baseball were both scheduled to take on Ottumwa on the road today. Those games have been postponed. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. July corn down 4 1/4 to close at $3.28 1/4. September down 4 1/4 at $3.33. December corn down 3 1/2 cents at $3.41 3/4. March down 3 1/4 at $3.53 1/2. July soybeans closed down 1/4 penny at $8.76 1/4. August down a penny at $8.75. September down 1 1/2 cents to close at $8.73 3/4. November down 1 1/2 at $8.79 1/4. July wheat up 3 3/4 at $4.85. Soybean meal down 50 cents a ton at $2.8650. June live cattle down 30 cents at $94.40. August down 27 at $95.12. August feeder cattle down 80 cents at $131.75. September down 80 at $133.07. July lean hogs down 162 at $46.82. August down 170 at $51.10. From the farm desk, I'm Dwayne Murley.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Cloudy skies expected this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 75. Northerly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Lows level off around 57. Tonight, partly cloudy skies. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times again. Tomorrow, chance for scattered storms. Daytime highs approaching 76. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 70.
Anyone who builds, remodels, or repairs for a living, we know the way you work has changed. That's why Lowe's is committing today to build new ways to keep you working tomorrow. We are proud to introduce the new Lowe's for Pros job site, powered by Stream, an augmented video chat tool, so you can be there for your customers without actually being there. And the cost to use? Try it free through October 31st at lowesforpros.com/ProLoyalty. Just one of the reasons why Lowe's is the new home for pros. Services subject to Stream terms. Lowe's loyalty membership required. More terms apply.
I'm Phil Gunderson. Gunderson's has a tradition of providing services unmatched in our community. Funeral, cremation, and pre-planning services with certified celebrants on staff, aftercare, video, and customized printed goods that are the standard. We offer live streaming options and community support with remembrance and educational programs. When it's time to look for a funeral home, look to Gunderson's.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
On this edition of the Iowa Business Report,
people are going to have been starting these processes, and so everyone can learn from everyone else about what's working. And so this was important when we first started planning it, and we think it's even more so now.
A series of monthly seminars is designed to provide networking and help for women business owners in Iowa. Another CARES Act could be in the works, according to one of Iowa's U.S. senators. And we'll meet a restaurant owner who used the recent shutdown to remodel and to take his food to customers. This is the Iowa Business Report for the third weekend of June 2020.
The Iowa Business Report is presented with support from the Iowa Association of Business and Industry. The Iowa Association of Business and Industry has been the voice of Iowa business since 1903. Learn more online at iowaabi.org. Here is Jeff Stein.
The National Association of Women Business Owners, or NAWBO, has an Iowa chapter which is spearheading a new program designed for women who have owned their respective businesses for at least 3 years. Donna Miller is an attorney and owner with the Miller, Zimmerman, and Evans law firm in Des Moines. Tamara Kenworthy is owner of On Point Strategies, a strategic planning, marketing planning, and market research firm, also in Des Moines. Both are members of the board of NABO Iowa and serve as co-chairs for the group's Business Institute. Tamara Kenworthy explains.
NABO Iowa is actually affiliated with a national organization, NABO International. Here in Iowa, we are headquartered in Des Moines. We're women-owned businesses who want to collaborate, network, and be educated about all things relative to business so that we can be empowered to grow our business.
We have done interviews for this program with various organizations that promote women in business, women in industry, and I always ask an ignorant question. It's 2020. Why do we even need such organizations? But very clearly, there is still a need in order to get to a level of equity in the marketplace.
That's right. Nationally, about 40% of businesses are owned by women. In Iowa, we don't have great recent numbers. The most recent numbers we have are from 2012. And at that time, there were just over 82,000 female-owned businesses in Iowa. There had been a 30% increase from the prior 10 years. So it's definitely looking up. But certainly we know that a lot of these women-owned businesses are smaller and do need help. And certainly we've seen that with the results of the pandemic and the impact on businesses. So our goals are to promote women businesses, to strengthen them, to make sure that they have a voice. And we still think that there's a need there. And we have 130 members in Iowa, so we think that we're serving that need.
What, Donna, are some of the challenges that a woman-owned business might face that people may not think of unless you're actually in the situation?
A lot of people don't understand that there is still some difficulty in getting funding and capital that's different from perhaps a male-owned business. A lot of the women-owned businesses are sole proprietors. They have some difficulty. Maybe they don't have the same banking relationships that larger organizations have. So those are the kinds of things that we talk about and try to help people navigate. And we do that a lot with partnerships with several banks in the area who are supportive of the organization.
Tamara, in keeping with the idea of providing assistance, providing some sort of support, you have a new business institute that you're rolling out this summer. Talk about the need for that and what exactly is going to take place.
We're so excited about the new Business Institute. Studies show that there's what's called the missing middle. And what that means is there's a lot of movement, a lot of resources and programming that are supporting startups. And then when you get to a certain higher level of revenue, there's easier to get funding, as Donna mentioned, and other resources. And what we're seeing, and this is nationally, but definitely here in Iowa, that there's not the level of resources or programming for those businesses who either are smaller with the number of employees they have or under $1 million in revenue or even less. And our members are telling us that they're hungry for that network to be able to bond together. As a marketer, it's a lot, we talk about tribes. I think women business owners, we're a tribe and we want to bond together. And so our board really had the vision that we needed to be proactive in providing a program for these business owners that fall in the missing middle. It can be an educational program, it's a networking program, but it's all about engagement together and being able to learn from each other. So we've actually kind of taken some leadership techniques and facilitation techniques, as well as kind of the masterminds mentality and methodology, and bringing it all in together into a customized program that we're creating so women can have a safe and open environment where they can talk about issues confidentially together.
There's ample information about this, Donna, on the website, but remind us how long a period of time this is going to span and how one can learn more and also get information about registration.
We will meet once a month for 7 months. We're going to start in July and that'll run through January. NABOIowa.org is one place where you can get that information. Of course, our Facebook page has the information. That also has contact information for Tamara and I if anyone has any particular questions.
What kind of programming is going to be presented? Do you have a different topic every month? Are there individuals who are going to be facilitating on certain different issues? How's it going to play out?
Exactly right. We are going to have different topics every month. We have 2 facilitators, and our hope is to fill 2 cohorts. So what the plan is to have experts in the field talk about these topics, whether it's marketing, growth of your business, planning. And then what we're going to do, it's somewhat unique, is we're going to have business roundtables where we can benefit from the experts and the facilitator, but also learn from one another and foster that group atmosphere where we're helping each other with issues and our planning and growth.
So, Tamara, measuring success with such things is very difficult. I personally think that having networking opportunities, conferences, seminars, that kind of professional development is very important, but sometimes it's hard to quantify it. It's hard when I'm a facilitator to know where success is. So when you're done in January with this first 7-month institute, how do you measure success?
That's a great question. In fact, our committee, our team, Don and I with our facilitators, are actually working on all of that right now for metrics. And we've really broken it into 2 ways that we're going to measure the program. One is about the business, each participant's business and the growth that they experience. And we're working through what very specific metrics we'll have. Our tagline for our program is empowering business growth. And each individual is going to be able to customize their plan. There's going to be a foundational template of metrics. It might be increased revenues. It might be decreased expenses. It might be how many employees you want to grow to. Things that are long-term and short-term.
As Tamara said, we have been planning this for a while, but what we realize is that there's a real need now because a lot of businesses may be rethinking how they're doing business. And this is an excellent program to allow them to take a fresh look at their business, to learn from others about, we're going to be far enough into post-COVID, hopefully, that people are going to have been starting these processes. And so everyone can learn from everyone else about what's working. And so this was important when we first started planning it, and we think it's even more so now.
We want to develop partners in collaboration with this program. So if there are organizations or businesses who really have a passion for supporting women-owned businesses, we're looking for those organizations to partner with us, and they would get exposure to an array of business owners. So that's another opportunity that's out there as we grow this program.
Tamara Kenworthy of On Point Strategies and attorney Donna Miller of Miller, Zimmerman, and Evans Law Firm. They serve as co-chairs for the NABO Iowa Business Institute. There's much more to this conversation, and you can hear it as an IBR Extra podcast. More information about the group is available online at naboiowa.org. That's NAWBOIOWA.org. And again, the registration deadline is June 30th. Still to come, the chance of another CARES Act coming from D.C., and one restaurant story of making it alone before and after COVID-19. You're listening to the Iowa Business Report.
Iowa's manufacturers have shown pride and commitment during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Mike Ralston of the Iowa Association of Business and Industry. Whether retooling their plants to make face shields, masks, and other needed supplies, or providing pay and benefits for workers during a slow economic time, these businesses are the foundation of our recovery. Learn more at iowaabi.org.
The Iowa Business Report is a copyrighted production of Totally Iowa Media, which is solely responsible for its content. For more, click on the radio programs button at totallyiowa.com.
The money coming from Washington in response to the spring economic shutdown due to COVID-19 is measured not by millions, not by billions, but by trillions of dollars. And according to U.S. Senator Charles Grassley, more may well be on the way.
I don't know the amount of money.
I do believe we're going to have a CARES Act 2. I don't think it's going to come until the middle of July. I believe it'll be done before we take our summer break in August. And I think the size is kind of dependent upon two things. One, how fast is the economy going to turn around? And secondly, the extent to which we already have not spent all the money that's in the CARES Act 1, like, for instance, tens of billions of dollars yet to go out for health care, particularly for hospitals and Medicare and Medicaid, things of that nature. I think we need to get that out and see how that's being spent. And then $150 billion that's out to the states, like Iowa getting $1 2/10 billion of the $150 billion that went to the states. What are the states doing with the money? Because there's no sense of borrowing more money until we know how this money is being used and the extent to which the need's not being met, and then the extent to which the economy is turning around. In other words, let me be very clear. The extent to which the economy is turning around fast as opposed to slow, I think makes smaller the amount of money that goes into the CARES Act, too.
One of the things we always half-jokingly say about government is that there's so much paperwork it makes it difficult, especially for a small operation, to do business. That's been a bit of a problem with CARES Act 1 and the PPP, hasn't it?
Yes, but the president signed a bill taking care of two or three things that we found almost from day one that was going to be a problem. One, that you had to have the people on your payroll by June the 4th, the same people you would have otherwise laid off, because we wanted to prevent layoffs. That was too short of a period of time, so we extended it for another 24 weeks. And then the rule that you had to spend at least 75% of your forgivable loan on salaries, and a lot of people have low salary expenses for their small business, more other things like rent and utilities and a whole bunch of other stuff. So we reduced the 75% down to 60. Now that's at least two things that were a problem. And the bill may have gone with lesser things that need to be changed, but not things that we had heard as much about as with the percentage and with the length of time to hire people back.
I spoke with U.S. Senator Charles Grassley by phone this past Monday afternoon. Coming up, one restaurant took the phrase takeout quite differently this spring. You're listening to the Iowa Business Report.
When you're stressed, you just don't feel like yourself. New Natral Relaxia, a full line of drug-free supplements to help you manage occasional stress and anxiety. A special blend of herbals keeps you feeling calm and balanced throughout the day. Because when there's less stress, there's more you. Try new Natral Relaxia. Learn more at relaxiamood.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Blue Ribbon, Pelham Waters, your water pro since 1949.
Who would have thought there'd be entire aisles devoted to bottled water, and that people would buy more water than pop? I'm Brian with Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters here in Fort Dodge. Spring water, drinking water, mineral water. There's so many choices, and we're proud to offer you them all. From our own refreshingly pure drinking water to ultra-pure Mountain Valley spring water, Blue Ribbon Pelham's is your complete water store.
Michael Devine, broadcasting live.
The Iowa Business Report is presented with support from the Iowa Association of Business and Industry, helping develop the next generation of business leaders through Leadership Iowa and Leadership Iowa University. To learn more, go to iowaabi.org.
In this week's Business Profile, we meet Matt Lemos, owner of the East Bremer Diner restaurant in downtown Waverly in northeast Iowa. The restaurant was founded by Don and Sue Landau in 2001. Don Landau owned a number of restaurants in the area over time, including two others with the diner format in Waterloo, as well as brown bottle restaurants in the Cedar Valley. Matt Lemos is a native of the area and worked at the East Bremer Diner while in college. After spending some time working in the hospitality industry in Las Vegas, he returned to Iowa to start a family and became manager of the Waverly restaurant. When it was time for the Landaus to retire, Lemos became the owner.
Running a business, a small business like the one we have, it has to be a lifestyle. The one thing I tell everyone is the whole work-life balance. When you own a restaurant like we do, the idea of a work-life balance being a 9 to 5 and then your weekends, that's just not how it works. Maybe my time with my family is on Tuesday and on Thursday, and that's my weekend. And you just have to know that going into it. And for me, I am a huge fan of inconsistency. Now, I want consistency with my food and everything else, but with my schedule, I thrive off some inconsistency. And if I get into a pattern, that's not my forte. And the other thing about our industry is that there's so few industries where you have so many people you come in contact with from such a diverse range than you do in an industry like ours. Obviously, you go into a city like Vegas and it's even more diverse. But for Waverly, where we wanted to raise our family, the industry really plays well into what I enjoy doing. And that's continually having to figure things out. That's the other thing about the restaurant business. I mean, there's got to be something almost a little wrong with you to want that. And we joke about that all the time, my managers and I, because regardless of what you have set up to run the business and precautions you put in place, it is going to go to snot on a Friday night at 6:30 when the basketball game let out and you had 3 teams show up and you didn't know there was a game. It's just, you just kind of know. And then you always have backup plans. And the coolest part about it is watching a group of people who may have never known each other otherwise figure out how to make this thing work. And that group of people being our staff. Once you get the right leaders in place, the rest of the staff just sees that. One of the biggest things we've done at the diner, and this is my favorite part about owning it, is we have a goal wall in the hallway. So everyone that works for us is required to have some sort of goal. It could be a diner goal, a personal goal, whatever. And they're supposed to write it down. The reason being, you're 4 times more likely to actually do something instead of just saying it once you see it written down. And what I love to remind them is that our community walks by that wall. Tens of thousands of people a year walk by that wall. They see it, they read it. They might not know whose goals are whose, but their goal has been read by somebody. And it's neat to see that process inside of them. It's a lot different than writing it down on a sheet of paper. So there's been some neat things we've accomplished.
During the shutdown, Lemos took the opportunity to do a bit of remodeling, including replacing the facade that had been on the front of the building since it was a hardware store generations ago. A new logo, a new menu, and a new way of reaching customers who could not come to the restaurant for dinner.
We knew that we were going to lose a lot of the small town business that we had. We actually sat down with the managers and we said to them, we go, here's the thing. Everything we're about to do is off book. We're going to make a lot of mistakes along the way. So there were some ideas that we'll probably never talk about because they were just that bad. We started doing delivery service in large quantities. So what I mean by that is, Shell Rock and Janesville both have delivery service to them from the diner right now, but it's a $40 minimum. But we'll go to the individual house. Then we deliver in Waverly. Well, especially with COVID-19, the staffing didn't allow us to just open up delivery to Denver or to Tupola or to Reedland. Instead, what we did is we told those towns, hey, we're going to take orders from you between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m., and we're going to do a large drop at 5 o'clock. So in Denver, we met, 10 to 15 people in the Denver high school parking lot. Then we handed out food to them. We just had everything separately bagged. We had their tickets ready to go. We had 3 of us out there doing a different piece of it. And 10 minutes later, we were driving back to Waverly. So at the end of the day, from a revenue standpoint, it looked good. From the end of the day at profitability, we had to invest so much between taking 2 cars and 3 people. And the profitability was not a super smart business decision. But what I will tell you is a smart business decision is that our staff understands the culture of the business we want to run, which is we're here to supply something, and we're going to figure out how to do that. We're not going to lose money in the process because that's not smart either. But if we can go and we can make an impact on a town like Tupola, who's still calling us, who we're going to keep doing this with, then that's awesome. then that's a whole new facet and a whole new way for us to think as a business. So in this whole COVID-19 thing, we actually promoted someone who kind of grabbed all this stuff and just was like, well, I want to run that. We created a position for her because we didn't have this position before, but she's our bar and off-premise coordinator. So her responsibility now is to market to the businesses around town on how do we serve food for 12 to 15 people in a small catering event? What towns are we going to go to? We had her run the numbers on how many times we should do this. What do you think the fallout will be? And it's just fun to see another person on our staff get this new task. I really wish we didn't have to go through COVID to figure this stuff out. But sometimes you only do things when you're forced to, because we just never would have had to think like that. We actually, instead of it being something that broke us and that made us quit it and just got us tired, we got to have fun with it. We got to have some fun. So, which don't tell that to everyone, because not everyone got to have fun.
Matt Lamos owns the East Bremer Diner in Waverly. More at eastbremerdiner.com. And that brings us to the close of this week's program. Next week, we'll look back at the Iowa legislative session and see what progress was made for employees and employers alike. That and more next week at this same time. In the meantime, you can listen to all or part of today's program by going to totallyiowa.com and clicking on the radio programs link. You'll also find podcasts of full interviews with many of the folks you hear on this program. They're listed as IBR Extras. You'll find us on all the major podcast distributors as well, including Stitcher, Spotify, iHeart, Apple, and Google. We welcome your comments. Send them by email to radio@totallyiowa.com. I'm Jeff Stein. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a prosperous week.
The Iowa Business Report is presented with support from the Iowa Association of Business and Industry. Follow ABI on Twitter at IowaABI and online at iowaabi.org.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice
Indy
and the
cars
American
in
way
Newton.
of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, 336.
Connect to this radio station from all across the country. Take us to the gym, shopping. How about a road trip? Listen to us now on the free iHeartRadio app. You'll never miss a moment with your favorite radio station. Download the free iHeartRadio app and search for this station so we can go wherever you want us to.
How much money would you like to save just by doing something you're already doing? How about 40%? With Allstate, safe drivers can save 40% just by doing something they're already doing. Driving safe. That's right, 40% just by driving safe. Visit Allstate.com or call a local agent for a quote today and see just how much you can save when you drive safe with Allstate.
Not available in every state. Savings vary based on DriveWise and other safe driving discounts. Subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. A member of the Fort Dodge School Board is receiving public backlash after he made controversial comments online on Friday. Matt Wagner tweeted on Friday, quote, "Forced reparations for apparently my ancestors. I'm not even sure my ancestors owe anyone an apology, but evidently I do. Sorry for all the privilege I get working 60 hours a week while everyone else is at the lakes or looting a Target." End quote. APHIS director and leader in the community Charles Clayton was critical of the post on Saturday and offered this online response. "This morning I have former and current students asking me what they should do and what should be done about someone who thinks there should be no apology for slavery and the only thing blacks do, I guess, is loot Target. Here is your chance to do something, Fort Dodge. No excuses. Time to stand up to people who think like this, being in leadership positions," end quote. Wagner did issue an apology on social media on Saturday, saying that he, quote, "put his foot in his mouth and what he said is indefensible." In the apology, Wagner did say that he hopes that 48 years of serving his community is not undone by social media and that he will try to do and be better. The Fort Dodge Community School District did issue a statement Sunday night on the issue. In the statement, they did not talk about any sort of disciplinary action that Mr. Wagner could be facing, but they did say they were aware of the tweet and that the personal comments of Matt Wagner do not reflect the values of the Fort Dodge Community School District. The district went on to say in their statement, as a safe and supportive school community, we value everyone and believe our differences make us stronger and more resilient. Our district stands against any and all acts of racism, disrespect, and inequitable treatment of people of color. The city of Fort Dodge has released a statement about this year's fireworks display that says the city and Greater Fort Dodge Growth Alliance are faced with the difficult decision of announcing the cancellation of this year's fireworks display following the disbanding of the volunteer committee that has overseen the event for the past 8 years. This announcement is also a result of the ongoing concerns related to COVID-19 and out of respect for local businesses who historically have contributed generously to the funding for the fireworks. Fort Dodge residents are reminded to obey all rules and regulations set forth in the city's fireworks ordinance if they choose to discharge consumer fireworks inside city limits. Failure to do so will result in a $500 fine for the first violation and a $750 fine for subsequent violations. According to a statement from Webster County Emergency Management Coordinator Dylan Hagan Monday morning, the boil water advisory for the city of Lehigh has been lifted. Test results have come back and are at safe levels. Sports from over the weekend. Number 1 Fort Dodge softball 3-0 on Saturday at their home invitational with 2 wins over ranked opponents. They opened the invitational with a win over Class 1A's number 2 team Newell Fonda 6-1. They went on to knock off Class 4A's number 10 team Winterset 7-1 in Game 2 and capped off the day with a 12-0 win in 6 innings against Harlan. Southeast Valley softball 1-2 in an invitational at Martinsdale St. Mary's on Saturday. Jags lost to Class 1A's number 1 team Collins Maxwell 11-0. They then beat AHSTW 8-3 and fell 10-9 to Martinsdale St. Mary's. Today, St. Edmunds softball on the road at 10th ranked undefeated Algona. Algona baseball taking on the undefeated St. Edmund Gales. Algona head coach Chad Slagle expects a battle tonight.
No, their pitching staff they've been pretty much awesome right now. It's definitely going to be a challenge for us. Getting good pitches, and when we get the good pitch, we've got to put the ball in play, and I think that's going to be a great high school baseball game. It's very important for us to be locked in right away, get quality at bats.
A 7:30 scheduled first pitch between the Bulldogs and Gales at Harlan Rogers. Fort Dodge softball and baseball were both scheduled to take on a tumble on the road today. Those games have been postponed. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Cloudy skies expected this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 75. Northerly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Lows level off around 57. Tonight, partly cloudy skies. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times again. Tomorrow, chance for scattered storms. Daytime highs approaching 76. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 70.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. July corn down 4 1/4 to close at 328 1/4. September down 4 1/4 at 333. December corn down 3 1/2 cents at 341 3/4. March down 3 1/4 at 353 1/2. July soybeans closed down 1/4 penny at 876 1/4. August down a penny at 875. September down 1 1/2 cents to close at 873 3/4. November down 1 1/2 at 879 1/4. July wheat up 3 3/4 at 485. Soybean meal down 50 cents a ton at 286.50. June live cattle down 30 cents at 94.40. August down 27 at 95.12. August feeder cattle down 80 cents at 131.75. September down 80 at 133.07. July lean hogs down 162 at 46.82. August down 170 at 51.10. From the farm desk, I'm Dwayne Murley.
cannot get the coronavirus from meat. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield. Juliana Potts with the North American Meat Institute says consumers should be aware that they cannot get sick from eating meat processed in a plant where workers have become ill with COVID-19.
Very early on, there are statements from USDA, Food and Drug Administration, CDC, all saying that this is not transmissible in food. I think the consumer needs to feel comfortable that normal food preparation in plants is so attentive to food safety. The normal, under normal circumstances, pathogen control is job number one. And so the kinds of ways in which our meat is treated as it is produced, fabricated, and packaged in the plant is hypersensitive to all of the measures that were already in place. And so it's not in the food, and it's not going to be in the food itself.
Potts says meat packaging and other surface areas are not a transmission risk. COVID-19 is a respiratory and not a foodborne illness. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield.
Want to have one more drink?
Sure.
Want to close down the bar?
Woo, yep.
You don't feel that drunk. Want to drive home?
Okay.
Want to possibly kill someone or yourself?
Wait, no.
Then leave your car at the bar and find a different ride home. You know there are apps for that now, right?
Yeah, I do.
With so many options out there for alternate transportation, why take the risk of driving impaired? You can worry about getting back to your car after you've sobered up. This message brought to you by the Iowa Department of Public Safety, Governor's Traffic Safety Bureau.
More choices, more money. Bayer Plus Rewards is a new kind of rewards program, one that lets you call the shots. Choose from our broad portfolio of high-performance products. Earn more money on the eligible products that are right for your farm. Use our new portal to see your purchases, track your rewards, and decide how you want to use them. That's how we're putting more control in your hands. That's the plus. Sign in and earn big with Bayer Plus Rewards. Visit mybayerplus.com to sign up today. See program terms and conditions for full details.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Dorenkamp with Managing for Profit on Brownfield. University of Illinois Farm Management Specialist Gary Schnitke recently projected a harvest price for corn of $3.10. If that holds, the price that will be used to set crop insurance guarantees will be at levels not seen since before the onset of the Renewable Fuel Standard. And while the RFS played a huge part in lifting corn prices during the past decade, Schnitke says he doubts ethanol demand can be a silver bullet this year or next. More coming up on Brownfield.
Hi, I'm Dr. Nia Hurd-Garris with today's tip for kids from the American Academy of Pediatrics. As parents, we want our children to grow up healthy and strong. That means helping teens take responsibility for their health as they become young adults. One way to do that is to make sure they have one-on-one time with their pediatrician. That helps them become comfortable talking about any health issue with their doctors and with you. So make sure to give your teen a voice. It's good for their health. For more on teen health, visit healthychildren.org.
Hi, I'm Dr. Shelley Flace with today's tip for kids from the American Academy of Pediatrics. Kids are full of energy, but keeping them active in their teen years can be a challenge. Aim for an hour of physical activity every day. If they like sports, that's a great place to start. Keep the focus on fun, not winning, and encourage your child to do a variety of activities. If your child isn't meeting that 60-minute goal, gradually increase their activity in ways they enjoy. For more, talk with your pediatrician or visit healthychildren.org.
University of Illinois Farm Management Specialist Gary Schnitke says he's projecting a harvest price for corn around $3.10 per bushel,
which would be used to set crop insurance guarantees this fall. It's the settlement price of the December contract during the month of October. And we're using historic data to come up with a projection for what that price would be, given differences in U.S. corn yield. And if we look at what USDA is projecting, which is 178.5 bushels per acre, we come up with a harvest price projection of $3.10.
He tells Brownfield the COVID-19 pandemic has had a negative impact on the corn market, dragging prices down to pre-RFS levels.
The last time we saw a harvest price below $3.10 was in 2006, when it turned out to be $3.03. And before that, we were in the $2 range. But if you go back that far, 2006, that was when ethanol became the big deal it was, and we saw that rise in corn prices. So we're back to that 2006 level again. By the way, in that year, we saw an increase from the base price to the harvest price from $2.59 to $3.03. So we were happy in 2006 with that $3 price.
While the RFS saved the day a decade and a half ago, Schnittke doubts ethanol demand can do the same today.
If you're looking at it, we still see far less driving now than we've done before, and COVID control measures are likely to be in place this fall and continue into next year. Just to give you an example, this fall, we're probably not going to be filling sporting arenas with people, or not as many people as we did before, which will reduce driving. My guess is many people still aren't going to be going on vacations and sticking more close to home. So all of that will reduce ethanol demand, and, having a reduction of 10-20% in fuel use and ethanol demand seems like a reasonable sort of thing going through 2020.
Schnittke says a $3.10 harvest price for corn would trigger crop insurance payments at an 85% coverage level, with yields roughly equal to the guarantee. He also expects PLC payments for corn if projections hold. I'm Mark Dorenkamp with Managing for Profit on Brownfield.
It's hard seeing my parents struggle living independently in these trying times.
Lifelong Links can help you help them.
I wish I could do more.
You can. If your loved one needs assistance, Lifelong Links from the Iowa Department on Aging can help you connect to available resources such as food, personal care, or just someone to talk with. Call 866-468-7887 to receive a supportive response to help navigate these uncertain times together.
866-468-7887.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. And I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher. Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell. And he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester. And it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity. Allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts, freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose, all divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose, and that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people. And it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all. For all. Which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Cloudy skies expected this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 75. Northerly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Lows level off around 57. Tonight, partly cloudy skies. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times again. Tomorrow, chance for scattered storms. Daytime highs approaching 76. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 70.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. I'm Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth. Of course, there was an incident at a Hy-Vee store in Des Moines over the weekend. A man in a pickup apparently was just trying to get into the store parking lot, and there was a ragtag group of mostly white protesters. There was a black kid or two in the group, but mainly it was a bunch of mangy-looking white kids. And they insisted that he not go into the Hy-Vee store because apparently, and I don't know the exact circumstances here, apparently some Hy-Vee employee had posted an insensitive idea. I have no idea what it is. But I know this guy decided he wasn't going to be intimidated by these people. Maybe he believed he didn't need to apologize to anybody. So there was a video of him at this Hy-Vee store in Des Moines. And, of course, the motley crew is there. And they're yelling slogans and telling him to turn around and go out and all this stuff. And he just decided he wasn't going to do that. So he slowly and surely, he was driving a pickup, slowly and surely moved through the mob. And, of course, they're screaming and threatening him and all of these things. And he didn't pay any attention. He just kept going until all of them got out of the way of his pickup truck. And then he drove into the parking lot. Now, this brings about some questions. First of all, why weren't the police there to clear out the mob? I mean, why should they be allowed to shut down a private business like Hy-Vee? That's not happening in my mind. And second, who made them right? Who made them right? The point I'm trying to get to is this: what they were out there for seemed to be such of small importance. But, of course, they blew it up to be part of something greater. But what they were really protesting about was something of relatively small importance. I still don't know the remark made by the person from Hy-Vee, the employee from Hy-Vee. The point I'm getting to, this is fascism. These people out in the Hy-Vee parking lot in Des Moines are nothing but fascists. And the idea that we should apologize to a bunch of fascists like them, I don't think so. And let's talk about apologies for a second. There is power in apology. There is power in an apology. It's really the transfer of power from that person giving the apology to that person receiving the apology. The question is, should the innocent apologize? Should you apologize for the racial condition of the United States, because I suppose I'm talking to mainly working people in Fort Dodge. And what sin did you commit exactly that you should apologize for? Because I have no racial sin. I have nothing to apologize for. When it comes to the racial situation in the United States of America, I'm not responsible. You'll have to look somewhere else. If you're looking for someone who ever intentionally harmed a black person, you'll have to look somewhere else. If you're looking for someone who judges people by the color of their skin, you'll have to look somewhere else. So what the hell am I apologizing for? Anybody know? Does anybody know? Am I sorry for the racial conditions in the United States? Of course. Am I going to single-handedly take care of it? Of course not. Come on, this is getting ridiculous. 4 o'clock, the news is next.
Hi, this is Leslie Segretti.
And I'm Tom Kreitler, and you can hear The Money Pit every Saturday afternoon from 4 to 6 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
More Trump campaign cases of coronavirus. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. A campaign statement confirming 2 more staffers tested positive and that both attended the president's rally on Saturday in Tulsa. Before the rally, several members of the advance team had tested positive. The statement says the members who attended the rally were wearing masks the entire time. Earlier, the White House accusing the media of focusing on nomenclature instead of action.
White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany defending the president's use of the term Kung Flu, a phrase that is deemed offensive by many Asian Americans.
The president never regrets putting the onus back on China, pointing out that China is responsible for this, and in the process standing up for U.S. troops who are being blamed by China in a campaign of misinformation.
In mid-March, senior counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway, whose husband is Asian and whose children are part Filipino, denounced the term, calling it wrong and highly offensive. In Washington, John Decker, Fox News.
The White House also says it was in jest when the president said during his weekend rally he had told his staff to slow the testing. Kate Bedingfield is a deputy campaign manager for Joe Biden.
From the outset, unfortunately, Donald Trump seems to have viewed this virus as a joke, and for Americans all across the country, it absolutely is not.
The Biden campaign and Democratic Party raising more money than the president for the first time in May, more than $80 million. But the Republican National Committee says in total, the president's raised over $800 million. Miami Mayor Francis Suarez tapping the brakes on the city's next phase of reopening as cases of coronavirus surge.
We are going to be implementing a mask in public rule. Everyone will have to be wearing masks in public.
More than 20 states are seeing increases, in some areas setting new daily records. There's an ongoing surge worldwide with more than 9 million cases. The number of lives lost in the U.S. now more than 120,000. America is listening to Fox News.
Hi, this is Jay Farner, CEO of Rocket Mortgage. Making the right financial decisions has never been more important. We can help guide you to those right decisions now, when they matter most. Mortgage rates are near historic lows, so when you call 8338-ROCKET or visit us at rocketmortgage.com to start your refinance, you'll be well on your way to saving money every month. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.375%, APR 3.59%. Right now could be a great time for you to take some positive financial steps forward with a cash-out refinance from Rocket Mortgage, which could give you the boost that you're looking for. In addition, we may be able to help you refinance with little or no out-of-pocket costs. At Rocket Mortgage, we're committed to every client, every time, no exceptions, no excuses, giving you the best mortgage experience. Call us today at 8338-ROCKET or go to rocketmortgage.com to learn more.
Rates subject to change. Pay 1.875% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Mourners visiting an iconic Atlanta church to pay respects to a man shot and killed by police.
A casket, gold in color, carrying the body of Rayshard Brooks lay before the altar of Martin Luther King's church, Ebenezer Baptist, as people paid respects. Brooks died after being shot by an Atlanta officer June 12th. That officer, Garrett Rolfe, was fired and has been charged with Brooks' murder. The death came in the midst of protests following the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. A quote from Brooks' eulogy says he wasn't just fleeing police, but running from a system that doesn't give people who've made mistakes a second chance. That eulogy will be delivered at the church Tuesday. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
A New York City police officer is suspended just hours after using a banned chokehold during an arrest. Police say the suspect was resisting arrest, but the mayor is praising another officer for intervening. Phase 2 of New York City's reopening underway. Outdoor dining now allowed at restaurants, though masks are still a rule. About 300,000 workers can head back to their jobs in the city. Another awards show gets pushed back.
The Golden Globes have joined other award shows airing at a later date. The Hollywood Foreign Press Association announced the Globes will take place a month later than normal, February 28th, 2021. The ceremony, one of the earliest of the year, normally takes place in January. The HFPA statement attributed the move to the impact of the coronavirus pandemic and fears it could reoccur in the fall. Last week, the Oscars made the move to April 25th. It's the latest date since its inception.
Fox's Michelle Polino. Similar moves made by the British Film Awards and Independent Spirit Awards. Stocks finished higher, the Dow up 153, closing back over 26K, and a record close for the NASDAQ at 10,056. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. A member of the Fort Dodge School Board is receiving public backlash after he made controversial comments online on Friday. Matt Wagner tweeted on Friday, quote, "Forced reparations for apparently my ancestors. I'm not even sure my ancestors owe anyone an apology, but evidently I do. Sorry for all the privilege I get working 60 hours a week while everyone else is at the lakes or looting a Target." End quote. APHIS director and leader in the community Charles Clayton was critical of the post on Saturday and offered this online response. "This morning I have former and current students asking me what they should do and what should be done about someone who thinks there should be no apology for slavery and the only thing blacks do, I guess, is loot Target. Here is your chance to do something, Fort Dodge. No excuses. Time to stand up to people who think like this, being in leadership positions," end quote. Wagner did issue an apology on social media on Saturday, saying that he, quote, "put his foot in his mouth and what he said is indefensible." In the apology, Wagner did say that he hopes that 48 years of serving his community is not undone by social media and that he will try to do and be better. The Fort Dodge Community School District did issue a statement Sunday night on the issue. In the statement, they did not talk about any sort of disciplinary action that Mr. Wagner could be facing, but they did say they were aware of the tweet and that the personal comments of Matt Wagner do not reflect the values of the Fort Dodge Community School District. The district went on to say in their statement, "As a safe and supportive school community, we value everyone and believe our differences make us stronger and more resilient. Our district stands against any and all acts of racism, disrespect, and inequitable treatment of people of color." The city of Fort Dodge has released a statement about this year's fireworks display that says the city and Greater Fort Dodge Growth Alliance are faced with the difficult decision of announcing the cancellation of this year's fireworks display following the disbanding of the volunteer committee that has overseen the event for the past 8 years. This announcement is also a result of the ongoing concerns related to COVID-19 and out of respect for local businesses who historically have contributed generously to the funding for the fireworks. Fort Dodge residents are reminded to obey all rules and regulations set forth in the city's fireworks ordinance if they choose to discharge consumer fireworks inside city limits. Failure to do so will result in a $500 fine for the first violation and a $750 fine for subsequent violations. According to a statement from Webster County Emergency Management Coordinator Dylan Hagan Monday morning, the boil water advisory for the city of Lehigh has been lifted. Test results have come back and are at safe levels. Sports from over the weekend. Number 1 Fort Dodge softball 3-0 on Saturday at their home invitational with 2 wins over ranked opponents. They opened the invitational with a win over Class 1A's number 2 team Newell Fonda 6-1. They went on to knock off Class 4A's number 10 team Winterset 7-1 in Game 2 and capped off the day with a 12-0 win in 6 innings against Harlan. Southeast Valley softball 1-2 in an invitational at Martinsdale St. Mary's on Saturday. Jags lost to Class 1A's number 1 team Collins Maxwell 11-0. They then beat AHSTW 8-3 and fell 10-9 to Martinsdale St. Mary's. Today, St. Edmunds softball on the road at 10th ranked undefeated Algona. Algona baseball taking on the undefeated St. Edmund Gales. Algona head coach Chad Slagle expects a battle tonight.
Their pitching staff they've been pretty much awesome right now. It's definitely going to be a challenge for us. Getting good pitches, and when we get the good pitch, we've got to put the ball in play, and I think that's going to be a great high school baseball game. It's very important for us to be locked in right away, get quality at bats.
A 7:30 scheduled first pitch between the Bulldogs and Gales at Harlan Rogers. Fort Dodge softball and baseball were both scheduled to take on Ottumwa on the road today. Those games have been postponed. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Cloudy skies expected this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 75. Northerly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Lows level off around 57. Tonight, partly cloudy skies. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times again. Tomorrow, chance for scattered storms. Daytime highs approaching 76. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 70.
If you're in debt to the IRS, there's good news. Optima Tax Relief can help you resolve your tax debt right from the safety of your own home. Optima's award-winning team works with you online and over the phone, so you don't have to leave the comfort of your home to put your tax problems to rest. Optima's A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and standing by, ready to help you today. Call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-386-9945. 800-386-9945.
Optima Tax Relief.
For details, visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
It's hard seeing my parents struggle living independently in these trying times.
Lifelong Links can help you help them.
I wish I could do more.
You can. If your loved one needs assistance, Lifelong Links from the Iowa Department on Aging can help you connect to available resources such as food, personal care, or just someone to talk with. Call 866-468-7887 to receive a supportive response to help navigate these uncertain times together.
866-468-7887.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth, and joining me again today is Joe Coleman, who's a deacon in the Catholic Church, an attorney, and has one of the most well-known names in the entire area, Joe Coleman. But you're not the Joe Coleman, are you?
No, I am not.
But he was your dad, right?
Well, you know what? I've got a both famous father and a famous son. I'm just cheese stands alone.
You're just a cheese stands alone? All right. Okay. We Joe and I try to talk about being Catholic in a world that may be decidedly un-Catholic and even hostile to Catholic teaching. I want to talk a little bit about apologizing today because there's a lot of talk about apology in the air here in town. Catholics are famous for apologizing, I think. I mean, we spend a lot of time on our knees, for God's sake. We're always apologizing for something. I mean, we have confessions set aside so we can apologize appropriately. I've always looked at apology as a sign of weakness, Joe, to be honest with you. If you're acting as you believe a moral person should, why should I apologize? Now, there's a difference between apologizing to God, as we do in the confessional, say a good act of contrition, 2 Our Fathers, 5 Hail Marys, all that sort of thing. But that's not necessarily the apology I'm talking about. There's a lot of demands that we apologize for slavery. I was never a slaveholder. Or for the condition of race relations in the country today. Gosh, if I could change them, I would, Joe, but I can't. So, should we apologize?
You know, Mike, it's all in the framing of the question, isn't it?
It sure is, Joe, and I'm good at it.
You certainly are, and I spent a lifetime framing questions as a trial lawyer, and I know that sometimes just the framing of the question dictates the answer. Let me give you an example, okay? You're on the stand, you're under oath, and I ask you a question, and Mike, I want an answer to this, yes or no. Have you stopped beating your wife?
Yeah, sure I will. You bet.
Yeah, I have. The implication is that
you have been beating your wife. Yeah.
And no, I haven't. So, it's a false question. So what happens is there are a lot of questions in life that aren't susceptible of being answered either yes or no, or maybe even being answered period, because the question posits a false narrative. So you have to ask yourself, what is apologizing all about? Now, you and I talked earlier about Pope Francis, when they asked him, "Who are you?" His response was, "I am a sinner." So the answer takes the question, turns it on its head, and speaks to humility. And therein is the basis of an apology. Most apologies are based upon embarrassment. The best apology is based upon humility. In my judgment. Make sense?
It does make sense. And if you or I truly made a mistake, or we acted out of vindictiveness or meanness, I would say that we have to make an amend, a sincere amend, not a phony one. And there's a lot of phony apologizing going on. And I would point to American corporations who for years turned their backs on any sort of change in our society, but now they're out front talking about, oh yes, our company stands for social justice and we stand with Black Lives Matter. Hell, you didn't even know who Black Lives Matter was 3 weeks ago, but all of a sudden you're at the forefront of the struggle. I mean, how phony can they be?
Mike, that's only normal and natural. Maybe you and I talked about this earlier, but I was visiting with a friend last week, actually on the golf course, and the friend said to me, we have to do something about this social welfare that's going on. And I said, would you do me a favor, before we get into this discussion, go to Google and Google up the difference between corporate welfare and social welfare. And then after you read that, come back and let's talk about it. Well did I know in advance that when you Google to see, corporate welfare exceeds social welfare in this country by almost double.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me at all. Iowa is a socialist state. I mean, I've said that so many times over the years, it freaks out the farmers. But yeah, Iowa is a socialist state, has been since the 30s. It's not so bad now since we started making money on ethanol and pork production, but all through the years of my growing up, if it weren't for massive infusions of cash into the farm economy, we wouldn't have private farming in the state of Iowa right now.
Well, I think there's certainly an argument to be made there, but you have to remember that agriculture is part of the triad on which the defense of this country exists.
I understand.
One is it's a three-legged stool. One leg is our military, the other leg is our financial, and the third leg is our agriculture.
But I don't understand socialism for some and everybody else goes to work. I don't understand the justice of that. I understand what you're saying, and I agree, totally. And I agree that the United States needs to control its food supply, 100%. And then if we didn't have these payments, these farm aid payments over the years, we could have had food riots in the street years ago. I don't know. But is this sort of thing right and correct? because what we're talking, and we're going to get back to apologizing here in a minute, whether that's right or correct. But I understand what you're talking about, Joe. But there is a hypocrisy in our society. There is.
Well, of course, because we're human, Mike. There's a hypocrisy based upon, not to get too theological on you, but based upon our fallen nature. What else would you expect? It's an ongoing struggle. It's just like the struggle politically in our country to form a more perfect union, which is ongoing all the time in these last 200-plus years. We're trying to form a more perfect union. In our religious life, we're trying to form a more perfect union as well with our Creator.
Wow, you are a Catholic. If you're going to start talking about fallen nature, that's right out of Catholicism, I'll tell you. Joe Coleman. Joe Coleman is our guest. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Were you trying to say something?
No, I was just saying that it's also the beauty of our nature to recognize that we are constantly, as K.R. Desjardins would say, we are constantly trying to jump up evolutionary levels to get to a union with God.
I hope that's the case. I want to talk to you about apologies then, once again. Apology has a moral force behind it. Apology has a moral force to it. Is it something that we owe people even though we've never been guilty of what they want us to apologize for?
Mike, you should have been a lawyer.
Thank you.
You're great at forming the question. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. I haven't any idea of the answer, by the way. I come to you, Joe.
What guilt? What is this concept of guilt? Okay, let me give you a perfect example. We're talking. Everybody is saying we should apologize for the racism that goes on in this country. I understand that that's the premise. Okay, and the same applies to Native Americans in the New World. At what point does individual responsibility, fall upon us? Now, you and I both say, hey, we were born in the 40s or the 50s. So what responsibility can we have for what existed 200, 300, 400 years earlier, right?
Right.
Fair enough. But the question really denies the underpinning. Are we a beneficiary, an ongoing beneficiary of what has happened? That's a tougher question to answer, isn't it?
Yes, and I'll answer it for you. Yes, we are. We still, as white people, probably benefit from the system, without a doubt. But do we apologize for our role in building this country? Do we apologize for our ancestors? And I'm completely unaware that my ancestors were overtly racist. They probably had racial attitudes of the time. But I don't remember them being overtly racist, and I certainly don't remember them passing on any racism they may have had to me at all. So, again, is this apology necessary?
Well, I'm sorry to repeat myself, but we get back to the definition. Apology for what? If we're talking about an apology for conduct over which we had no control, of course not. Philosophically, that's invalid, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But if we're talking about an apology for taking advantage of a situation that we continue to take advantage of without speaking out about, that may be an entirely different answer.
Okay, what's your answer?
Well, I think it's important that we get to the second point of the golden rule, that we treat our fellow man like we would like to be treated ourselves.
Certainly.
You know, Mike, nobody likes that. Ever stop to think about that? Nobody really likes the second point. You know, we're all very, very happy to love God and to worship God and to honor God. Nobody ever argues about that. We never have any difficulties with that. But boy, when we get to the second hook, love your fellow man as you love yourself. Ooh.
Yeah, that's difficult. That's difficult. And by the way, I have a more difficult time with white people doing that than I do with any people of color. You know, I've met, and so have you. I mean, you've met some white people who are just even solid church-going white people who were just liars and thieves.
Well, you know, Mike, it might have changed. I was reading a thing the other day that do you know that it was within the last 30 years that Hispanics were not considered to be white when you filled out applications for jobs and things like that?
They weren't considered to be white?
Yeah, because those were the only choices that you had.
Oh, white and black. I see.
You either had white, black, or other, and most of the applications talked about Hispanics as being white. The other really had to deal with people from the East, Orientals, if you will. Not to be stereotypical, but that's it.
Well, we've evolved now, Joe. I mean, I suppose the question here is we're going to have questions like, were you ever a member of the other gender?
Yeah.
Were you known as somebody else by a masculine name if you're a woman, and of course the opposite if you're a man? So there you go.
I know that you are extremely well read, because when I listen to you talk and I ask you questions, you're always underpinning it with what I know is a sound educational basis. But when you stop and think about everything that's going on, like George Orwell, didn't he have it right in so many respects for what we're seeing today? Speaking of apologies that are not apologies.
Yeah, it's newspeak of some kind. By the way, I was taught early in life by the Sisters of the Presentation. I either did well or I was beaten to death. So there was a pretty stark choice.
You know what? You and I are kindred spirits, because I had the Presentation nuns as well, and thank God for that.
Oh, I thought everybody in Fort Dodge had the BVMs, the Blessed Virgin Mary nuns.
Well, you have to remember, I grew up on a farm out of Clare.
Oh, well. See, there it is again. The Irish are the worst when it comes to being Catholic. They're just the worst. I don't know if it was the famine or what, but Irish are just the worst, you know. Even in Catholicism, I mean, German Catholics and Dutch Catholics, oh, yes, you Irish are just over the top. And they're right. they're right. We're all guilty. There we go. Now we're guilty of something. Anyway, Joe, do you have a final thought?
No, other than, stay safe, wear a mask when you're out in public, because you have to understand something. You're not wearing that mask for yourself. You're wearing that mask for your fellow human beings.
I got to remember that.
Yeah.
All right.
So, God bless you all of our listeners, and you take care. I'll look forward to visiting with you next Monday.
Thank you, Joe. Joe Coleman has been our guest. He's a deacon in the Catholic Church, and this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
It's 428. The news is next.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Message and data rates may apply. Guys, staying at home has taken a toll on us. It's time to fight back. If you're ready to get back to feeling free and physically great again, we'll send you a complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling free testosterone booster at GNC and Walgreens. Yes, we want every man in America over 40 to feel stronger with more energy and endurance. So, we're giving away complimentary bottles of Nugenix Total T. You can get yours right now just by texting BREAK to 321321. Nugenix has the patented key ingredient Testofen, which helps boost free testosterone and total testosterone levels and increase muscle mass. Nugenix is a great way to increase lean muscle and feel stronger with more energy and endurance. Text BREAK to 321321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix. Nugenix samples are not available in stores, so text BREAK to 321321 right now. Text BREAK to 321321. That's BREAK to 321321.
These are unprecedented times. We are coming together in new ways. Family, friends, and neighbors, all doing what we can to help. Mercy One thanks our selfless colleagues on the front lines for their dedication to personalized, excellent care. Our more than 20,000 colleagues thank you for partnering to stop the spread of COVID-19. By washing your hands, staying home, and practicing social distancing, we are all in this together. Mercy One, your best life, our one purpose.
With your KVFD News Update, I'm Rob Jones. A member of the Fort Dodge School Board is receiving public backlash after he made controversial comments online on Friday. Matt Wagner tweeted on Friday, quote, "Forced reparations for apparently my ancestors. I'm not even sure my ancestors owe anyone an apology, but evidently I do. Sorry for all the privilege I get working 60 hours a week while everyone else is at the lakes or looting a Target." End quote. APHIS director and leader in the community Charles Clayton was critical of the post on Saturday and offered this online response. "This morning I have former and current students asking me what they should do and what should be done about someone who thinks there should be no apology for slavery and the only thing blacks do, I guess, is loot Target. Here is your chance to do something, Fort Dodge. No excuses. Time to stand up to people who think like this, being in leadership positions," end quote. Wagner did issue an apology on social media on Saturday, saying that he, quote, "put his foot in his mouth and what he said is indefensible." In the apology, Wagner did say that he hopes that 48 years of serving his community is not undone by social media and that he will try to do and be better. The Fort Dodge Community School District did issue a statement Sunday night on the issue. In the statement, they did not talk about any sort of disciplinary action that Mr. Wagner could be facing, but they did say they were aware of the tweet and that the personal comments of Matt Wagner do not reflect the values of the Fort Dodge Community School District. We value everyone and believe our differences make us stronger and more resilient. Our district stands against any and all acts of racism, disrespect, and inequitable treatment of people of color. The city of Fort Dodge has released a statement about this year's fireworks display that says the city and Greater Fort Dodge Growth Alliance are faced with the difficult decision of announcing the cancellation of this year's fireworks display following the disbanding of the volunteer committee that has overseen the event for the past 8 years. This announcement is also a result of the ongoing concerns related to COVID-19. Fort Dodge residents are reminded to obey all rules and regulations set forth in the city's fireworks ordinance if they choose to discharge consumer fireworks inside city limits. Failure to do so will result in a $500 fine for the first violation and a $750 fine for subsequent violations. For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. July corn down 4 1/4 to close at 328 1/4. September down 4 1/4 at 333. December corn down 3 1/2 cents at 341 3/4. March down 3 1/4 at 353 1/2. July soybeans closed down 1/4 penny at 876 1/4. August down a penny at 875. September down 1 1/2 cents to close at 873 3/4. November down 1 1/2 at 879 1/4. 1/4. July wheat up 3 3/4 at $4.85. Soybean meal down 50 cents a ton at $2.8650. June live cattle down 30 cents at $94.40. August down 27 at $95.12. August feeder cattle down 80 cents at $131.75. September down 80 at $133.07. July lean hogs down 162 at $46.82. August down 170 at $51.10. From the farm desk, I'm Dwayne Murley.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. It's 71 degrees in the weather today, or I should say for what's left of today. It'll be sunny with a steady temperature around 72 overnight. Partly cloudy with a low of 56. Tomorrow a chance of thunderstorms, mostly sunny with a high of 75. Wednesday sunny with a high of 80. Thursday sunny with a high of 85. Friday showers and thunderstorms likely mainly after 1 p.m. Partly sunny with a high of 87 on Friday. Saturday sunny with a high of 87. Sunday partly sunny with a high of 88, maybe 90. Right now 71 degrees at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce Funeral Home at 923 1st Avenue South, Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. Brenda Shipman of Colville has died at the age of 54. Brenda Shipman passed away on Friday at Trinity Regional Medical Center in Fort Dodge after a struggle with cancer. Brenda Shipman's funeral will be at 11 o'clock Thursday here in town. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce's Funeral Home at 923 1st Avenue South, Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. It's 4:34 at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, 71 degrees.
I'm Liz Clayman, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Stocks finishing higher, led by gains in big tech names, which boosted the Nasdaq to close at a new record high. Stimulus hopes and economic recovery optimism offsetting a spike in coronavirus cases, with the Dow closing up 154 points, the Nasdaq up 110, S&P 500 up 20. Apple among the big Dow leaders, with the shares surging. The tech giant says it will switch to its own chips for its Mac computers, saying the first machines will ship this year. The move ending a nearly 15-year reliance on Intel to supply processors for its laptops and desktops. And Carnival Cruise Line is extending its pause in operations for North American voyages until September the 30th as it determines how it can navigate safely amid the coronavirus pandemic. Sales of existing homes dropping 9.7% in May to the lowest level since October of 2010, according to the National Association of Realtors. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Hillary Barsky, invested in you.
You're more focused than ever on keeping your employees and customers safe. Cintas has the products and services you need to feel prepared. Our Cintas technicians can apply our disinfectant and sanitizer spray throughout your facility. Our Ultra Clean service for restrooms uses a sanitizer effective against certain germs, bacteria, and viruses. And we'll help you stay well-stocked with hand sanitizer, face masks, and essential PPE. Visit Cintas.com and get ready for the workday.
Capital One knows life doesn't alert you about your credit card.
Hey, couch surfers, we've got nonstop tunes to keep you rocking while you work. Oh, and Colleen, yes, you Colleen with a K. Your free trial of Movie Plus ends tomorrow, and your card may be charged. Do you want to continue or cancel?
So meet Eno, the Capital One assistant. Eno looks out for surprise charges, like when free trials expire, and helps if you need to fix them. Eno, another way Capital One is watching out for your money when you're not. Capital One, what's in your wallet? Limitations apply.
I've always wanted to learn another language, so I decided to give Babbel a try, and I really like the teaching method of the app. I started with the beginner lesson on Babbel, and soon you're putting words into a conversation. Each lesson takes about 10 to 15 minutes, and they're all really different, which keeps things interesting. I can't wait to use my Spanish skills in real life. Dos cervezas, por favor.
Now try Babbel free. Just go to Babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's BABBEL.com.
When you're stressed, you just don't feel like yourself. New Natrol Relaxia, a full line of drug-free supplements to help you manage occasional stress and anxiety. A special blend of herbals keeps you feeling calm and balanced throughout the day. Because when there's less stress, there's more you. Try new Natrol Relaxia. Learn more at relaxiamood.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth, of course, and we have on the air with us a PhD in economics, Dr. Dean Stanzel with Southern Methodist University. How are you, Dean?
I'm doing well. Happy first Monday of summer.
Happy first Monday. Yes, that's right. I forgot about
summer. Yeah, Saturday was the first day.
That's right. Dr. Stanzel is also with the O'Neill Center at SMU. Describe the O'Neill Center, please.
Sure. The O'Neill Center for Global Markets and Freedom is in the Cox Business School at SMU in Dallas. It was established by William O'Neill, one of our alums, who is also the founder of Investors Business Daily newspaper. Our focus is studying the impact of competitive market forces on freedom and prosperity in the global economy. O'NeillCenter.org, O-N-E-I-L, is our website.
Okay. Some of you know that Dr. Stanzel is a libertarian, of course, and rarely wants to talk politics with me. And I try to avoid it unless politics are forcing its way into economic thinking and reasoning. Dr. Stanzel's a free market advocate. And, of course, government being involved in the economy is not a good thing for a free market advocate. So I guess I was a little... And Dr. Stanzel also worked for the Cato Institute at one time. And I have a post here, and it's on my Facebook page now, from the Cato Institute. And it's not really about politics, at least not the way I'm reading it. It's about qualified immunity and police officers. Now, this isn't an economic piece that you usually send me, Dean. The most common it's titled The Most Common Defenses of Qualified Immunity and Why They're Wrong. Well, there seem to be some pretty powerful arguments for qualified immunity if we believe the police should be kept safe as well. One argument is, of course, we need qualified immunity so that the police won't hesitate when they have to make a split-second or life-or-death decision. What's wrong with that?
Well, the problem here is that it really doesn't impact that issue. The concerns overstated, and we should probably, at the outset, kind of make clear to your listeners what qualified immunity means. It's a legal concept that essentially says that for a plaintiff, a civil rights plaintiff who believes that and can prove that the defendant, it could be a police officer, it could be any sort of government official, that person violated their constitutional rights. For example, George Floyd, I think you could argue clearly that his constitutional rights were violated.
Yeah, I would think so, yes.
Right. If those rights were not, quote-unquote, clearly established at the time of the violation, meaning that there was no prior case involving nearly identical facts, then that, in that case, the perpetrator, the defendant, has qualified immunity. They're immune from prosecution because if no other case has been essentially almost identical. And it's a weird loophole that, look, I'm not a legal scholar here. I can't quote the history of this, but it's a weird loophole that reduces accountability greatly for what we're talking about now. And this time is law enforcement officers, but it goes broader than that. But it applies certainly to these issues, these circumstances of police brutality. And so, and look, if there was no violation of the defendant's constitutional rights, then getting rid of qualified immunity doesn't matter. It doesn't make police officers any less able to defend themselves, right? And if, by my way of thinking, if a police officer or anyone has violated someone else's constitutional rights, well, by God, they ought to be accountable, right? They ought to be held accountable for that activity. And to be 100% clear, clearly, police officers have a difficult job. Clearly, they do have to make split-second decisions, absolutely. But these aren't all split-second decisions, right? Of course, the case with George Floyd, that was an 8-minute and 46-second decision. It involved 3 other people standing around watching. And so, yeah, this stuff, it gets me a little fired up. But yeah, it's not an economic issue per se, but it's about freedom, and it's about justice, and it's about creating a society in which we're all treated the same under the law, which I don't think really is what we're dealing with in some cases.
African Americans argued for years that they should not be judged by the actions of a few. I wholeheartedly agree and accept that. We have this one malicious police officer in Minneapolis, who, by the way, was the senior officer. The other two officers you refer to were, it was their first week on the job, and he was their training officer. One guy, that was his first day on the job, and if you read the video, or if you listen to the videotape, officer, whatever his name is clearly telling the other ones, no, we're going to keep him in this position. I mean, the other officers are asking him, why don't we let him up or let him on his side or something? He refuses. Yeah. He refuses, and he's the senior man, so he was the supervisor on scene. So these other officers, I think, probably should get a break. The police officer who killed George Floyd should not at all, and our system correctly has waived any pretense of qualified immunity in this case, obviously. But I still think...
But we don't know that yet because it hasn't gone to trial. And it could very well be the case if this exact circumstance hasn't happened before, and I don't know all of the cases out there, that loophole will help, I forgot the guy's name, the police officer who had his knee and killed George Floyd. It could very well be he'll skate because of this. And that's a crime, in my opinion.
Oh, I don't know. The whole country's on fire. I don't think he's walking.
Sure, yeah. I hope you're right.
I don't, and he shouldn't. Absolutely, he should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. He's been charged with second-degree murder. He's, I don't know why it's not first degree. I guess there has to be a degree of premeditation that couldn't have happened because he just rolled up on the man. But the odd thing about it is, they were both security guards at a large club in the Minneapolis area at the same time.
Right. So they did know each other. You could probably twist some sort of motive out of that, premeditated. I don't know. I'm not an attorney, but
yeah, I don't either. But another point: eliminating qualified immunity would negatively impact recruitment and retention of police officers. I would think so. I mean, we're talking about a horrendous and dramatic act in Minneapolis, and that's coloring everything else that we can talk about. I mean, a person can get drunk, and police officers will have to subdue him, and they may not be kind about it if he's fighting or struggling or yelling at him, which every drunk seems to do now. But in absence of qualified immunity, couldn't this drunk and his ambulance-chasing lawyer make a lot of hay out of a videotaped drunk arrest?
Well, I mean, look, the real issue here on this is that even without qualified immunity, it's not easy to demonstrate that a police officer violated your constitutional rights. And the gentleman from Cato goes through four different reasons why that particular argument doesn't hold up. Police officers are nearly always indemnified for any settlements or judgments against them, meaning they don't actually pay, but their employers do. The qualified immunity means that law enforcement is held to a far lower standard of liability than basically any other profession. And so getting rid of it would just put it on par with other jobs that were available to these recruits that allegedly are less likely to apply. And so, there's ample evidence that having this sort of kind of loophole in there makes it harder for them to do their jobs because the community doesn't trust them. And obviously, it's the whole issue of what we see on the news is unusual, at least in the big picture statistically, right? But when we see it, you can't unsee it, right? And there are all these examples that then coalesce, and it makes it seem like things are probably worse than they really are. But it does not that doesn't excuse every instance of a constitutional violation of some police brutality is bad and shouldn't have happened and should be prosecuted. But ultimately, I think that it's creating a situation that's harder for those folks to do their job. And as I think we talked about a little bit last week, one of the ways that I think we can go about to help the situation is to end the drug war, for example, to eliminate victimless crimes, and because you've got a situation where there's so many laws on the books that the police officers have an impossible job, right? And certainly, obviously, someone, the police chief or what have you in that jurisdiction, is telling them what to prioritize. But there's just too much out there that's on their plate, and we need to offload some of that in some cases onto other people. There's the example people talk about that, if someone calls 911 because they see a homeless camp of people, well, the police have to show up, and they're not trained to deal with homeless people. They're not trained to deal with the mentally ill, and so it's things like that often then end up in these ugly incidents we see videoed where a nervous cop and a mentally ill, perhaps mentally ill person just end up in a dispute, and the cop's got the gun, and it's not likely to end well in the best of circumstances.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Dean Stenzel, liberal, and supporter of ambulance-chasing lawyers. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. Let's have more lawyers suing the hell out of everybody. Oh, my client was pushed on the ground, drunk by the police. He deserves justice, and justice is $90 million for his knee scraped. Dean,
I don't think that old man in Buffalo was drunk. I think he was just pushed by some mean police.
Oh, that guy. Well, he was a local. That shouldn't have happened, but he was a local.
He was laying in a pool of blood. I mean,
yeah, that was
walked on over him.
But he was an annoyance. He was a well-known activist, annoyance, whatever you want to say.
Okay, fair enough.
Who stepped right in the path of a much younger police officer, and the police officer.
Constitutional right.
That's right.
Nonviolent protesting. I mean, I don't know, man. I think that he was. He has his rights were violated, and
all right.
No, I'm not a fan of the lawyers. Don't get me wrong.
All right, we'll get out the sitar. We'll get out the sitar, Ramadan, Dean Stenzel, here in just a minute. No, the police officer.
Libertarian.
No, we should not have. That officer should not have done that. And once he did it, he should have stopped to assist the man. That was just flat out wrong. Anyway, let's move on to actual economic news here. And our guest is Dr. Dean Stenzel of Southern Methodist University. He's an economist. Now, he has sent me a Wall Street Journal opinion piece. My subscription to the Wall Street Journal ran out about 2 months ago. I never got around to renewing it again. But Dr. Stenzel was sending me so many pieces from the Wall Street Journal, I had to get it again, which is okay. But let me quote from the Wall Street Journal, and this is on my Facebook page. The Labor Department Friday, and I guess this was last Friday, reported jobless rates in May for the 50 states. And not surprisingly, I'm ad-libbing here. Not surprisingly, the news is the greater than usual variation. Some state economies are recovering much faster than others, and the worst performing tend to be those that have imposed the most severe lockdowns. The national jobless rate was 13.3 in May, but 10 states still have unemployment rates above 15%. 15%. Remember, it was 25% at the height of the Great Depression. Now, this will not surprise you. From the high, Nevada has an unemployment rate of 25.3%. Hawaii, 22.6%. Michigan, where the governor has turned into a tyrant there, 21.2%. California, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Delaware, Illinois, New Jersey, and Washington State. I'm shocked not to see New York State, since Governor Cuomo has been all over the place talking about what a hero he is to insist that people.
So they're not doing much better. They're at about 14.5%.
Okay, all right. Well, again, this is not a surprise. The governor of Michigan and other posing, pompous liberal types who insist that a professional class of 3 should dictate our lives have been standing on. They're doing this for the common good. They're saving lives. Everybody must wear a mask, and of course socially distance and stay inside. Now that's been going on for months, but I sometimes wonder if that's a cover for the fact that they haven't released any progress that they might have made on the treatment of the COVID-19 virus. Has anybody heard any of these specialists say anything other than what I just said? Are they moving toward an understanding of the virus so that we can live with it? Are they going to get a vaccine? No, they don't say those things. They're not being transparent at all. But anyway, does this surprise you at all, Dean? I'd be surprised if you were surprised.
No, not particularly. No. So those those states, as you said, who've been most restrictive and have persisted the longest have not unexpectedly at all, right? Seen that their unemployment rates have stayed high, and so look, it's it's going to take time, but I think it does stand as a lesson. If we go back a few months ago and think about what were our goals with locking down, with sheltering in place, and the biggest part of it, as I recall and as I believe, was to avoid overrunning the hospitals and getting to beyond their capacity to treat people. Well, we did that. The whole idea, flatten the curve. We did that in most places, and I believe all places really. But so at some point, right, you say, okay, we've got to start at some point to open back up and let people pursue their livelihood so they can pay their bills, so they can be whole. And there are offsetting costs here. We often ignore trade-offs, which as economists is particularly frustrating. It's like, well, people use the phrase, if we could save just one life. I mean, it assumes that the cost of doing so are just meaningless, right? But the cost of this are very meaningful. The people who have mental health issues that are being exacerbated by being out of work and being under stress of not being able to pay their bills, the people who were unable to get non-emergency medical treatment. Some of whom will die because they didn't get cancers diagnosed soon enough. There's all sorts of costs to keeping locked down the way we have been. And I think that at some level we need to trust people to be responsible and to protect themselves and to protect their loved ones by exercising caution and using masks and washing your hands and all that sort of thing, and minimizing contact, keeping distance. We can do this as human beings, right? As grown-ups, we can do this, and we were starting to do it before government stepped in and said, stay home. But I just think we need to trust people a little more. And granted, there are some people, there are bad apples out there who are going to spoil it. I saw this video this morning about a guy, of course, in Florida man, at a Walmart, forcing his way in without a mask, and he fell down, and he was like, talking and spitting, and he was all fuming, and kind of, while you're fuming, you're probably...
I know you're from Florida, but you don't have to take that on the entire state. We have that here, believe me. All over that's all over the country.
Florida man gets a bad rap, but anyway, but so there are people like that who aren't being responsible. I have no doubt. I understand that completely. But by being responsible, we can protect ourselves from those people. They don't really represent a threat to us if we're doing the right thing as responsible citizens. But anyhow, we got to open back up and get people back to their lives so that they can just live and pay for things and be healthy and happy and move on with their lives. And they're going to find a cure. They're going to find a vaccine eventually. That's not government's job per se. It's the medical researchers who are working hard on this. And in the meantime, we've got to be patient and try to stay safe.
Dr. Dean Stansel is our guest here at AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. He is an economist at Southern Methodist University, and he's with the O'Neill Center as well. Yeah, at the start of the COVID virus, you'll get a kick out of this. We had videotape released of some women in the aisle at Walmart who were fighting over toilet paper rolls. I mean,
right.
They'd get these big 24-roll toilet paper things, and they were hitting each other in the face with them, and every other doggone thing. It was crazier than hell.
Yeah, they probably haven't run out yet either.
No. And I never did get the connection between all the toilet paper and the coronavirus.
Hey, by the way, I know we're probably running out of time here, but Colorado is mentioned in this Wall Street Journal op-ed as one that's doing particularly well. Another thing that happened in Colorado that I meant to mention when we were talking about qualified immunity is that while the Supreme Court refused to take this up, the Supreme Court had a chance to overturn qualified immunity. They refused to do so. Colorado has passed legislation just recently that among other things, strips police officers of qualified immunity in civil court. So it's good things are happening there in that regard, and there's some other police reforms there that are designed to address a lot of the problems that people are concerned about.
You're right, Dean. We're out of time, regrettably, because we have some more things that we could have discussed, and I'll put those up as well, an article from Forbes magazine, for example. But anyway, our guest has been Dr. Dean Stansel, a Ph.D. in economics at Southern Methodist University and the O'Neill Center. Dean, great to talk with you as always.
Absolutely, same here. Thanks for having me on.
All right, see you later. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. July corn down 4 1/4 to close at 328 1/4. September down 4 1/4 at 333. December corn down 3 1/2 cents at 341 3/4. March down 3 1/4 at 353 1/2. July soybeans closed down 1/4 penny at 876 1/4. August down a penny at 875. September down 1 1/2 cents to close at 873 3/4. November down 1 1/2 at 879 1/4. July wheat up 3 3/4 at 485. Soybean meal down 50 cents a ton at 286.50. June live cattle down 30 cents at 94.40. August down 27 at 95.12. August feeder cattle down 80 cents at 131.75. September down 80 at 133.07. July lean hogs down 162 at 46.82. August down 170 at 51.10. From the farm desk, I'm Dwayne Murley.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Partly cloudy skies tonight with a low of 57. North winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times tomorrow. Chance for scattered thunderstorms. Daytime highs approaching 76. Partly cloudy skies again tomorrow night. Lowest level off around 56. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm staff meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 71 degrees.
All right, it's 4:59. I want to thank my guest today. That would be Pastor Austin Harrell, Joe Coleman, of course, and Dr. Dean Stanzel. Really do appreciate them, and I appreciate you listening today. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow, my friend. It's 5 o'clock, KVFD, Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Straight talk on life and money. This is the Dave Ramsey Show on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400, KVFD, Fort Dodge.
Lengthening the ban. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. Certain foreign workers will not be allowed in the U.S. for a little longer.
Citing the coronavirus pandemic, the Trump administration is extending immigration restrictions until the end of this year. Through an executive order, the president will prevent foreign workers from filling 525,000 jobs. The ban on new visas applies to H-1B visas, which are used by major American tech companies, H-2B visas for non-agricultural seasonal workers, J-1 visas for exchange students, and L-1 visas for managers of multinationals. Critics of the move say the president is using the pandemic to essentially shut down immigration through the end of December. In Washington, John Decker, Fox News.
Workers in the food service industry are exempt. The White House pushing back against comments President Trump made at a Saturday rally in Tulsa about slowing down testing for COVID-19.
It was a comment that he made in jest. It's a comment that he made in passing, specifically with regard to the media coverage and pointing out the fact that the media never acknowledges that we have more cases because when you test more people, you find more cases.
Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany, a Biden campaign spokeswoman, says President Trump has treated the virus as a joke, and for Americans across the country, it is not. This is a spokesman for the Trump campaign, says 2 more staff members have tested positive for the virus, and says those people are in quarantine and contact tracing is being done. Before the rally, it was announced 6 staffers had been diagnosed with the virus. Wall Street at the close after a choppy start. Stocks are closing higher. The Dow gained 153. The Nasdaq added 110. Ask your Amazon smart speaker to play the news from Fox. America is listening to Fox News.
Hi, this is Jay Farner, CEO of Rocket Mortgage. Making the right financial decisions has never been more important. We can help guide you to those right decisions now, when they matter most. Mortgage rates are near historic lows, so when you call 8338-ROCKET or visit us at rocketmortgage.com to start your refinance, you'll be well on your way to saving money every month. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.375%, APR 3.59%. Right now could be a great time for you to take some positive financial steps forward with a cash-out refinance from Rocket Mortgage, which could give you the boost that you're looking for. In addition, we may be able to help you refinance with little or no out-of-pocket costs. At Rocket Mortgage, we're committed to every client, every time, no exceptions, no excuses, giving you the best mortgage experience. Call us today at 8338-ROCKET or go to rocketmortgage.com to learn more.
Rates subject to change. Pay 1.875% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states.
With your KVFD news update, I'm Rob Jones. A member of the Fort Dodge School Board is receiving public backlash after he made controversial comments online on Friday. Matt Wagner tweeted on Friday, quote, "Forced reparations for apparently my ancestors. I'm not even sure my ancestors owe anyone an apology, but evidently I do. Sorry for all the privilege I get working 60 hours a week while everyone else is at the lakes or looting a Target." End quote. APHIS director and leader in the community Charles Clayton was critical of the post on Saturday and offered this online response. "This morning I have former and current students asking me what they should do and what should be done about someone who thinks there should be no apology for slavery and the only thing blacks do, I guess, is loot Target. Here is your chance to do something, Fort Dodge. No excuses. Time to stand up to people who think like this, being in leadership positions," end quote. Wagner did issue an apology on social media on Saturday, saying that he, quote, "put his foot in his mouth and what he said is indefensible." In the apology, Wagner did say that he hopes that 48 years of serving his community is not undone by social media and that he will try to do and be better. The Fort Dodge Community School District did issue a statement Sunday night on the issue. In the statement, they did not talk about any sort of disciplinary action that Mr. Wagner could be facing, but they did say they were aware of the tweet and that the personal comments of Matt Wagner do not reflect the values of the Fort Dodge Community School District. We value everyone and believe our differences make us stronger and more resilient. Our district stands against any and all acts of racism, disrespect, and inequitable treatment of people of color. The city of Fort Dodge has released a statement about this year's fireworks display that says the city and Greater Fort Dodge Growth Alliance